One now for a while. She had been a Category 5 off the Gulf Coast. She did hit land at about 3:30 Eastern time this morning, 2:30 Texas time. She's done a great deal of damage. We haven't been able to quantify it. They will as we continue. You've been watching a special Cost of Freedom. I'm Neil Cavuto. Tony Snow is next.
This is a Fox News alert. You're looking live at Hurricane Rita as she continues her way up the border between Louisiana and Texas along the Sabine River. Currently, Hurricane Rita is centered somewhere between Beaumont and Jasper, Texas. And while the hurricane has been downgraded to a Category 1, don't let that fool you. The punch of Rita has knocked out power for at least 675,000 people in the region. It's ripped the roofs off of homes, sparked fires, caused several tornadoes. Hi, I'm Tony Snow. For the next couple of hours, I'll take you up and down the path of carnage as we continue our coverage of Hurricane Rita. Now, Dan Springer is standing by in hard-hit Beaumont, Texas. He's got to look at the damage there. Dan, why don't you give us the latest?
Yeah, Tony, let me first just say that it's still very dangerous to get around town. The Beaumont officials have said they will let people out of the city, but they will not let people in. And let me tell you why. At the risk of looking like a complete idiot, you know, we do a lot of stupid things in the name of news, gathering news. I got up this morning from this building in Beaumont where we spent the night, harrowing night, with winds howling, ripping through this city, unbelievably strong at about 1:30 this morning. Our mission was to get down to the hardest hit areas, which were down closest to the Gulf, which were the cities of Orange, cities of Port Arthur. So we decided to take that 25-mile trip down to Port Arthur, and there are power lines, there are downed trees everywhere. We actually ran into a power line right here. It took our hood and smashed it up against our windshield. So that's why authorities are saying that we do not want anybody driving around town. Even though the hurricane winds have died down here in Beaumont, it's still too dangerous with all the debris and all the junk that's littering the streets. Let's go show you some of that videotape that we shot as we were heading down to Port Arthur. We saw literally buildings where the whole roofs were torn off. We saw lots and lots of businesses that had the signs, the facades, completely ripped down. We saw a lake that is now Port Arthur. What we did is we drove the 25 miles down to the intersection of Port Arthur, and then we were stopped because there's a low point there. Port Arthur is very close to the Gulf, and it is a low-lying spot with a lot of rivers and canals, and literally probably a third of that city right now is underwater. The part that comes up from the Gulf and goes up to the railroad tracks, where we end up seeing just a lot of standing water. So we weren't even able to get to the hardest hit areas. There are people in Port Arthur who are still fighting floodwaters. We don't know exactly how high. We have heard reports that there may be some people who are trapped inside their homes. We could not get to them today. We did speak to some people in the surrounding areas of Port Arthur who were able to get back to their houses today, and they were able to get in and see the damage. In some cases it was extensive, in some cases it was less so. But I will tell you this, that the damage is less severe than they were anticipating. They were thinking that they could have floodwaters all the way up to I-10, which extends the entire route from the Gulf up to Beaumont. That did not happen. Worst case scenario did not happen, but they do have a lot of wind damage that they're cleaning up, and they have a lot of people who are without power. Tony?
All right, Dan, thank you very much. Well, power outages have been reported throughout Texas. Alicia Acuna is live in Nassau Bay. She has the latest from there. Alicia?
Hi, Tony. It's still fairly windy here. We're getting a little bit of rain, but really not that bad, and that's pretty much the story here that went throughout the evening. You can take a look, though, with the wind. The trees are still getting battered down just a bit. That's our hotel over there behind the trees. Nice thick building, so we were pretty safe. The power went out momentarily overnight, but really, all in all, not so bad. We say that now, and all of the officials in this area and throughout Texas are saying that the damage assessment is still in its very first stages here. And you can look over behind me here. Usually what you see, even during a pretty bad storm, you've got some downed tree limbs, you've got debris over. We've seen some fences over on the other side of the area that were knocked down, but really pretty not too strong of structures. Anyway, we're standing here along Clear Lake. Now, last night, I can tell you, the water was up about good 3 or 4 feet. What happened was the tide came in, and then And as expected, we were told this would happen, that the water would then get sucked back in, back out this way over here to our left, and head out the channel into Galveston Bay. And then Galveston Bay was expected to swell and then send water on over to Galveston. There are still officials there in the command center that is being centered in the San Luis Resort there. We do know that some of the city officials who stayed here on the mainland through the storm have now made their way back over onto the island, but still they haven't really gotten out and checked how things are. They were anticipating some serious flooding. They did have a fire, 3 structures overnight, and 1 woman remains in critical condition at this point. So that's the latest from here. Tony.
All right, Alicia, thank you very much. Geraldo Rivera rode out the hurricane in Port Arthur, Texas, and he joins us now with the latest from there. Geraldo?
Hi, Tony. Port Arthur was not spared Hurricane Rita's wrath. It's still howling here. Still feels like 50-knot winds at times. Extensive flooding. We spent the night, this Port Arthur, as you know, Tony, is the heart and soul of the American oil refining industry. We went out to one of the oil refineries today. The familiar flames from the excess natural gas still burning. The large structures seem intact, but it's impossible to access them. They are moats, just like downtown Port Arthur. There's a big seawall that protects Port Arthur, Tony, much like the levees protect New Orleans, although it's a much better structure built in the 1970s by the Army Corps of Engineers, much more modern structure. So we don't think that that was breached, but we do think it was perhaps overtopped. I don't know if the water came from overtopping that, the intercoastal, or Sabine Lake, which feeds into the Sabine Pass, which is the boundary line between Louisiana and Texas. That's the big artery where they ship out all the oil. I don't know if it's the lake or the rain. The rain was extensive, and you can see neighborhood after neighborhood in Port Arthur, Tony, is basically underwater. You remember these scenes from New Orleans? It's not that bad, but it's pretty severe. I don't know, and then you know that it takes 10, 12, 24 hours sometimes to truly assess the nature of the extent of the damage. But it just seems to me that Port Arthur has really gotten a shot in the belly. We haven't been able to get downtown. The one road that we were accessing is now under almost 7 feet of water. As far as I know, there are no police, no emergency service workers down there. We saw one lone boat driven by a detective sergeant, a SWAT team detective sergeant named Smith. He and 2 of his colleagues are the only ones, as far as I know, that have managed to get in the real heart of downtown Port Arthur, because we have not been able to get through yet, nor has the vast majority of the emergency service workers or the cops, Tony. So we still don't know just how bad it is down in the heart of Port Arthur. But these neighborhoods after neighborhoods, modest homes, they see, I don't want to overstate, the roofs seem to have stayed on the structures. The shingles stripped, extensive flooding. Many of the homes are on concrete blocks. They've been knocked off their foundations. Some cars have been turned over. Power lines, not just power lines, but the power poles themselves, many of them snapped off at their base, Tony, to show you what the storm is like. We were here to weather the storm rather than risk driving up to Beaumont. It was really severe wind, then there was this eerie calm is what I think the eye was passing over us. Then the wind came back from the opposite direction. We were on the floor of the Holiday Inn, the very solid structure, all sleeping on the floor. It blew out the front door of the Holiday Inn, blew out the back door, came in an inch or 2 of water. We went to the second floor, slept in the hallways of the second floor, and then spent the night that way. And then when dawn broke, looked out the window and saw what appeared to be very widespread damage. Port Arthur totally evacuated, though, Tony, so I doubt there are many casualties here. It was absolutely a ghost town. Even the police, the emergency service workers, everybody gone last night. But as of right now, Port Arthur, much of it is extremely wet, if not underwater, Tony. Yeah,
this is an amazing hurricane, Geraldo, in terms of its staying power. I mean, it's a dozen hours after landfall. It's still dumping torrential rains on the region. It's still a hurricane. I want to get back to something you mentioned before, which are the oil refineries. Is it your sense that there has been significant structural damage, or is it too early to tell?
Well, I was out at the Sabine Pass, Tony, which is right on the Gulf. yesterday, and it was already howling well in advance when Rita was already was still 85 miles, 100 miles offshore. It was still howling. There's oil rigs as far as the eye can see, all those floating platforms, some of them moored ashore, all of the support facilities. It seemed very, very vulnerable to me. I bet you've got some significant infrastructure damage out there. I couldn't imagine that you would not. At the very least, Tony, you have no access to those facilities. The roads are right at sea level. They go through marshland to get out to the Sabine Pass Road in those facilities. I bet you dollars to donuts there's going to be quite a hefty bill and quite an interruption in the supply of refined products coming out of this region for quite some time, Tony.
All right, Geraldo Rivera, thank you very much. We're going to get back to you. Folks, if you took a look at that graphic we showed you before with the refineries, a full 23% of America's refinery capacity comes from that region of the country. Now, what we're showing you is what a Category 3 hurricane does in terms of property damage. That is what Rita was when she made landfall, again, about a dozen hours ago. And extraordinarily, Rita still is packing hurricane force winds, even though now significantly inland. There you see sort of the kind of structural damage one might expect from a Category 3 hurricane. This is what befell the Tri-Cities of Port Arthur, Beaumont, and Orange. You will hear reports from all three. They are clustered together, as Geraldo pointed out, on the Gulf, right in the heart of the oil refining country, not too far from there, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Here's the track, and again, Geraldo was referring to the Sabine Pass along the Sabine River, which separates Louisiana and Texas. And as you see, the hurricane tracking right up along the border region. There had been reports overnight that in Jasper, Texas, even before it had been hit by the hurricane, that at least one house had been floated completely off its moorings with 7 people still inside. So as you can see, one of the things about Hurricane Rita is that it just has amazing lasting power. As a matter of fact, there have been weather projections, and we'll get to some of those later, that it may kind of hunker down now in either western Louisiana or East Texas for a period of 2 to 3 days, dumping feet of rain on there. We have no idea what that's going to mean for New Orleans. We plan to find out pretty soon. But in any event, Hurricane Rita does not appear to have caused the kind of property damage, certainly to Houston or Galveston, that a number of people had feared. But on the other hand, as Geraldo pointed out, this is like the beginning of a war. Truth is always the first casualty of war, also the first casualty of initial reports from a hurricane. We're just beginning to sort this out, and we will continue to do it to the very best of our abilities. Speaking of New Orleans, the city of New Orleans was already on its knees after Hurricane Katrina. Now the punishing rains of Rita are straining the already fragile levee system, causing even more flooding. Jeff Goldblatt is in New Orleans, and he's got the latest. Jeff?
Tony, good afternoon. A couple of developments to talk to you about on this afternoon. First, let's bring you some positive news, which has been rare in the Crescent City over the last month. Took a drive around the downtown, the Central Business District, and the French Quarter, and no additional flooding damage. Many of the streets which were ravaged by waters after Katrina in the downtown and are now trying to limp back to life. We didn't see any additional water damage. But we did, however, see piles of debris in these neighborhoods as we took the drive around. And right now you're looking at video of the French Quarter. And we saw some military vehicles going around. We also saw some people, some business owners, trying to pick up some trash that presumably was deposited by Katrina and not Rita. So again, you're looking at the piles of trash from the other storm, and it's difficult to discern if anything as far as wind damage was created by Rita. However, we do know the distinct mark left in New Orleans by Katrina. Let's now show you the Industrial Canal, and this is something we started to follow very closely yesterday. It's a couple of miles east from where I am on the eastern part of the town. 2 failures of the levee system has sent a torrent of floodwaters cascading into separate parts of the city, both the 9th Ward and also St. Bernard Parish. Now, we understand from the Army Corps of Engineers that they're going to make 2 different attempts to remedy the situation. On an area on the east side, they have 4 helicopters at the ready today in order to try and drop into a levee failure, 7,000-pound sandbags, and they have 1,000 to 2,000 of those available if needed. And then on the western side of this, where there was a spillover that took place, they're going to try and drive to this area 3,000 to 5,000-pound sandbags. And we understand from the Army Corps of Engineers they did expect some seepage in these areas as far as the Industrial Canal was concerned, but not the kind of spillover that you saw in that video. They believe they can get a handle on it, and so water will be prevented from coming into the downtown areas, which would be positive news again for the city of New Orleans. Tony, back to you.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. Now we're going to get a check on current conditions as Rita continues churning northward. Foxcaster Chris Knowles in the Fox Weather Center joins us. Chris.
Good to see you, Tony. Let's take a look at the radar picture at this hour. We can see some of the heavier bands moving just to the north of Port Arthur. Port Arthur now drying out as the storm chugs its way north. Right now it's headed to the north and northwest, about 12 miles an hour. We really don't see a whole lot of easterly drift with this. As we've been talking about, it's going to stall out in this area. But some of these heavier bands are dropping up to 3 to 4 inches an hour. And those bands are directly around the center of the storm. They're represented here in the darker blue, and now beginning to see some greater areas right in the northwest quadrant away from the center of yellow and even orange, and that is indicating again some really torrential rains. That will be the story for the next several days, not only in eastern Texas but for much of western Louisiana as well. We take a look now at the track of the storm, and it's not much of a track after the next 24. Look at it stall out now about Monday morning over Arkansas, where it sits and dumps perhaps 2 feet of rain. It's still a pretty wide storm, and it still will be when it makes its mark in this area as well. The winds will be felt well back in the east, Tennessee, places like that. Here's just a recap. Winds at 75 miles an hour. It's still a Category 1. Tony?
All right, Chris, thank you very much. We're going to try to figure out now what has been going on in Beaumont, Texas. Joining us is Jerry Jordan, who's a senior staff writer with the Examiner in Beaumont. Jerry, first give us a report on what you've been able to see since Rita made landfall last night.
Well, I stuck it out in Beaumont last night and got up early this morning and drove through the town. The trees, and we have a large west end section with the big stately oak trees and tall pine trees. Those trees are snapped in half like twigs all over the community, and houses this with trees laying on top of them, and went over to the Parkdale Mall area, which is our shopping district. There's a automotive store, mechanic shop over there, and it was destroyed. The entire building was laying on top of 2 cars that they had left in there, as well as the wall of the Fellowship Christian Church had also collapsed. The winds from this storm definitely caused severe damage all over our city.
Now, Jerry, for the most part, people have evacuated, correct?
For the most part, people have evacuated. I do know that I was driving around this morning. I saw more people than I actually thought I would see out on the streets. And I talked to the police department. They are saying no one needs to be on the streets except for the police department and the strike team that's out there. Obviously, the media is out there trying to bring the images so that the people won't have to see, have to get out there and put themselves in harm's way.
All right, Jerry Jordan, I want to thank you again for Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont, among the hardest hit by Hurricane Rita. There you see part of the damage with the picture we have. And Jerry, thank you so much. We'll get back to you as well. We're going to take a quick break. We're bringing you live coverage of Hurricane Rita. Again, still a hurricane, nearly a dozen hours after first making landfall, an extraordinary occurrence. She still may have a lot more damage to wreak, not only in Louisiana and Texas, but also Arkansas. We'll continue bringing you the very latest. You are watching Fox News Channel.
Good improvement.
Thank you, doctor.
Cholesterol's down. Well done.
Great.
Hello, doctor's office.
And I gotta tell you, nice job.
Mr. Decker?
I told you we'd get it down.
Yep, even doctors can have high cholesterol. When diet and exercise aren't enough, adding Lipitor can lower your bad cholesterol from 39 to 60%. In fact, more cardiologists surveyed said they'd prescribe Lipitor for their own family members than any other cholesterol brand. Lipitor is one of many cholesterol-lowering treatment options in addition to diet and exercise that you and your doctor can consider. Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver problems and women who are nursing, pregnant, or who may become pregnant. Simple blood tests are needed to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor about other medications you are taking or if you experience muscle pain or weakness, as these may be signs of a rare but serious side effect. Ask your doctor about Lipitor today.
Polished, not glaring. Designed, not decorated. horsepower Infiniti QX56. A refined, tailored reward. Infiniti.
10 years ago, this company was just a crazy dream. But we hung in there together, went through countless meetings, a timely refinancing, and way too much Chinese takeout. And you know what? This little business, it's not so little anymore.
How long should we let your Morgan Stanley guy go, Bob?
Leave him alone. He's on a roll. When you work with a Morgan Stanley financial advisor, you get someone unusually devoted to your dreams, one client at a time.
It's time for the annual Corvallis Fall Festival, the weekend of September 24th and 25th. It's a free celebration for everyone in Central Park, downtown Corvallis. Enjoy a beautiful fall weekend, see arts and crafts from around the Northwest, children's activities, and plenty of delicious food. Music on the main stage throughout the day, and Saturday Night Street Dance features piano man Scott Fisher. Don't miss the Corvallis Fall Festival, September 24th and 25th, downtown.
Freezer's on the fritz, boss. All the ice is melting.
Hey, boss! 10 tons of tuna got caught up in customs.
Boss, we got cats.
Small business owners have enough challenges. High-speed internet shouldn't be one of them. As a broadband leader, Comcast delivers speeds up to 7 megs with advanced security features and 24/7 support. It's one thing you can count on.
IRS, line 1.
Hurricane Rita is continuing to churn slowly northward along the border of Louisiana and Texas, dumping feet worth of rain on the afflicted areas. Also, winds still in excess of 75 miles an hour. That's right, a dozen hours after first hitting land, Hurricane Rita remains a hurricane. Joining me now on the phone from Austin, Texas, Colonel Bill Meehan of the Texas National Guard. Colonel, first, thanks for joining us. Right now, one of the terms I keep hearing, and I want you to give us your impression of it, people say, well, Texas dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that's quite the case. What so far are you able to tell about the kind of damage that Rita has brought to sections of Texas?
Hi, Tony. You know, I guess it's all a matter of how you look at things. We're expecting a Category 5 and a Category 4, so there's a lot of, we're all happy in a way it's a Category 3. Now, that did come blasting through that, and I'm sure when you talk to the occupants of Port Arthur and Beaumont, they sure did not dodge that bullet at all. Now there's heavy, heavy rain as it moves up forward, up to Lufkin and East Texas and also western Louisiana and soon to be Arkansas. So there's not many bullets dodged for any of those people.
Now, a lot of people are going to be tempted to return home. We have already been told that authorities in Houston and Galveston are telling folks, look, don't be so quick. Let us get things cleaned up. Let's make sure that we can resupply gasoline to the stations and get vital services up and running. You and I both know that a lot of people are going to be pretty eager to get back and figure out how their homes have fared and everything else. Any advice on how long people ought to wait before, how long they ought to resist that temptation to return home before actually doing so?
Well, you know, we take our guidance through our operations center here for the state. It works for the governor. So we're one of the many agencies that support that, Tony. But I think the guidance here is to give it a little time. Over the past couple of days, the National Guard, we've been delivering hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel. Starting on Thursday night, you know, that was the major mission. We fueled up 260 buses on Wednesday night with 25,000 gallons of fuel. You know, we were given by our state here 650,000 gallons here just about 40 hours ago. You know, and we've been out delivering that and really working it. You know, but the issues certainly are fuel, and you know, if they give it a little time, that'd be good. There's lots of pre-positioned fuel rolling into stocks, and you know. Be good if they give it a little time.
One of the other things you're going to be called upon to do is not only to help supply those kinds of humanitarian necessities, but also help clean up some of the mess. Quite often, your guys are called in to haul away trees and other things that may be getting in the way. Do you have any sense of how much property damage so far has been reported along the path of Rita?
Well, our state offices and the state government is making appraisals. Essentially, after 9 o'clock today, they're all over it, essentially up flying as we are now, too. So that's going to happen over the next
couple hours or so about what the damage is. You know, we've got an entire engineer unit that is moving in on the Houston area. Yesterday, we brought in right into the teeth of the hurricane. We positioned 3,500 guard men and women all over greater Houston and up to Beaumont and Huntsville. So we're there, and if we get those clearance missions, we're going to go after it.
All right, Colonel, well, God bless you and good luck, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, folks, we have also, one of the other stories we're tracking is New Orleans. Although hard hit by Hurricane Katrina, the volume of rain generated by Rita, as you probably know, has caused the compromise of at least 2 places along the Industrial Canal levee. Bill Hemmer is in New Orleans, and he has conducted an interview with one of the people responsible for trying to hold things together.
Gotcha. We left off yesterday. You come out here at daybreak, and what do you find on the 17th Street Canal?
Here at the 17th Street Canal, I find everything to be basically as we left it last night, which is the same as we had constructed it. Everything here is stable, fine, and holding tight.
So you're saying the plan that was put in place here is working?
It's working exactly as we wanted it.
Now on the east side of this canal, though, there is some flooding and standing water. Not nearly as intense as it was after Katrina, but it is there. What explains that?
Well, basically from the rainfall, and if you have a low spot, basically the waters that hit the high areas are draining back into the low neighborhoods. So this would be a low neighborhood. We do not see any seepage at all coming through the closure or any of the other areas that could possibly
So that 300 to 400 foot break over here in the canal, there was no seepage over there to speak of?
That's correct.
Wow. So the issue at this point then is what? Before you can say we are in the clear on this particular part of the city?
Well, what we have to do is really wait for the lake waters, the swelling of the lake, to recede. It needs to drop down. At some point, we'll decide when to remove the sheet pile that you see here behind me. At that point, when the sheet pile is removed, we could then resume pumping. We're using the city pump stations and pump out the water that you do see in the streets.
As of this hour, though, there is no pumping going on in New Orleans, correct?
That's correct. And a decision was made that we were far more concerned about a storm surge entering the city than what we might get from 2, 4, 6 inches of rain.
And at this hour, the lake is higher than you want it, and you need that lake water level to drop even more than it is now.
The lake level at this time is higher than what is within the normal tidal range. At least in the last 3 weeks that I've been recording data, the lake level had been in the range of 0.5 to roughly 1.5.
0.5.
That's above sea level.
Above sea level.
Right.
Okay. And today it's what then?
And today it's in the 5-foot range.
Yeah. So that's a bit out of the comfort zone, isn't it?
Well, you could say it's out of the comfort zone, but then again, we have the reassurance of the sheet pile here.
Rita is now over land, southwestern part of Louisiana. What is your concern now with that storm?
Well, I'm not a meteorologist. I'll have to wait for the data. I'll have to wait to hear what they have to tell us in terms of winds, wind direction. That'll impact the ability for the lake to drain out. Then again, we have the concerns of rain still as well.
Thank you. Good luck to you, all right?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time, okay? Thanks.
That again was David Wurtzel of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers speaking with Bill Hemmer. President Bush has spent most of the last couple of days at Northern Command in Colorado Springs, Colorado. He was there this morning for a briefing at Northern Command, and following that briefing, the president made some remarks. We're going to give you a look at what he had to say.
Admiral, thank you very much for a series of briefings that really do comfort me in knowing that our federal government is well organized and well prepared to deal with Rita. I've come here to watch Northcom in action, to see firsthand the capacity of our military to plan, organize, and move equipment to help the people in the affected areas, in this case of Louisiana and Texas. We've had full briefings on the storm, its activities. The first order of business now is to surge search and rescue teams to pull people out of harm's way. Just had an assessment by General Honore of Lake Charles, Louisiana. It got hit hard. They've got teams on the ground beginning to analyze the situation and prepare the necessary response to stabilize the situation and, more importantly, save lives there as well. It's very important for the citizens who have headed into East Texas to understand that even though the storm has passed the coastline, the situation is still dangerous because of potential flooding. A lot of people have left the coastline and headed into East Texas and parts of western Louisiana. It is important for them to listen carefully to the local authorities about whether or not it is safe to return back to their homes. It's going to take a while for the authorities on the ground to fully understand the impact of the flooding, and therefore people who are safe now ought to remain in safe conditions. At any rate, Admiral, thank you very much for your hospitality. I appreciate your leadership. I want to thank all the folks who work here in NORTHCOM for doing their duty, which is to organize and rally the assets of the federal government to help our fellow citizens who are in need. Thank you very much.
There was the president with fellow blue shirt Michael Chertoff sitting to our left. If you're looking at the screen, the president's right as they were concluding the results of their briefing at NORTHCOM. Now, maybe the most important part is that Rita, even though she's made landfall, may just be at the beginning of the damage that she's going to be able to wreak. Foxcaster Chris Knowles told us a few minutes ago, they're talking about 2 feet of rain as far north as Arkansas in the next few days. That can be, as we've seen in New Orleans, enormously damaging, especially along low-lying areas in the Gulf Coast. Fox's continuing coverage of Hurricane Rita is going to continue. We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us. Much more live ahead. A Fox News alert. We're going to can the commercial break. Right now, Steve Brown joins us from Austin, Texas, where state officials have held a briefing on relief efforts, and he's got the latest for us. Steve?
Yeah, about 90 minutes ago, Tony, Governor Perry was here along with various state officials here from the state of Texas who were talking about various developments since Rita started wading ashore approximately 1 a.m. this morning. The first and foremost and most important, there are no reports of loss of life, but the Texas governor does have a few words of advice for all of those folks who fled southeast Texas to get out of the way of Rita, and that advice could best be summed up as stay where you are, please. Now, the Texas Governor Rick Perry was talking about there's still a lot of work that has to be done in terms of making sure that the area is safe before people can allow to be back in there. And please, the governor says, don't rush back into evacuated areas just because the worst of it seems over. Perry says there's a lot of work that has to be done before they can green light a return. There is a damage assessment to be done. For example, roads and bridges need to be checked. Even though Rita's power is pretty quickly evaporated and was off target from original projections, Governor Perry says it does not mean that folks should start heading for home yet.
It appears that Houston and Galveston were spared the worst, but I want to reemphasize to Texans currently in that area to remain in their homes, remain in their places of safety. There are still concerns over flooding, over fallen trees, debris, all of which pose a danger, so people should remain in their safe locations and listen to their local officials.
Now, the governor mentioned that there would be a staggered return for evacuees, but did not exactly explain what that meant or how that would work. We are to understand that they are working out the details on that, but it does suggest to avoid the kind of scenes that we saw on the highways during the evacuation, that not everyone will be permitted to go home all at once. In all likelihood, the governor said that the first thing that needed to be take place was make sure that certain things were restocked. Gasoline, for one, because it's out all along the major routes in and out of the Houston-Galveston area, and grocery stores needed to be restocked restocked as well because there was a rush on those items before folks left town as well. So it appears that businesses would be allowed to open up first, let some trucks and supply trucks get in there first, and then gradually there would be some sort of staggered return. Now, we're not sure if that means community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, certain sections of streets by zip codes or what have you. We're hoping to hear more about this particular staggered return, but a lot of this is going to be determined by local officials out in the Houston and Galveston area themselves as to how quickly they feel they can absorb those residents. The state basically taking a look at all of the highways coming in and out of those areas, remembering the nightmare of the traffic coming out and trying to alleviate that going back in. Tony?
Steve, thanks so much. As I mentioned before, Hurricane Rita is a mischievous storm, and the worst of the damage may yet to come. Foxcaster Chris Knowles joins us from the Fox Weather Center with a check on what's going on with Rita. Chris?
You could be right, Tony. You know, usually we're talking about the storm surge, the wind damage. In this case, we're talking about a lot of rain and not a lot of rain by the coast, more inland. Here's a look at the storm right now. It's still pretty big out there. The tropical force storm winds extending some 140 miles away from the center of the storm. So look at these bands. They're ending up all the way into Alabama and to Tennessee, and now up maybe even to the southern Ohio Valley. That's where that rain is going to be spreading, but it's going to take its time as it meanders along the Texas-Louisiana border and then sort of sits and spins, we think, tomorrow and the next day in southern Arkansas, Hot Springs, Little Rock, all areas that are going to see some heavy bands of rain. Some of those are already starting to make their way into Arkansas, as we said. The darker blue, the really serious stuff, couple inches an hour, and as we get closer to the center of the storm, especially we're hearing on the northwest side, 3 to 4 inches of rain an hour. This is the severe stuff. Let's take a look at our rain map and tell you where that's going to be. 18 inches plus now in this red center, and this is, again, the border, mostly in western Louisiana. And later on, when that storm breaks free and sits up into Arkansas, that's where we're going to see some widespread flooding. This storm is going to meander and actually make its way, Tony, back down towards the Gulf. Back to you.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Joining us now, Congressman Charles Bustani, who represents most of the southwest Louisiana coastal regions, an area that was battered by Hurricane Rita. He joins us now on the phone from Lafayette, Louisiana. First, Congressman, why don't you give us a sense of the damage in the areas that have been most dramatically hit by Rita?
Well, Tony, we've had extensive flooding in Vermilion Parish and Cameron Parish, as well as Calcasieu Parish, which lies a little bit further to the north. There's a key shipping channel, and, of course, the storm surge has really caused a problem in there, and we've got extensive flooding in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So we're dealing with all of this, of course, wind damage, a lot of infrastructure and building damage. There are some unconfirmed reports of damage to a sector of I-10 in the area of right just to the east of Lake Charles. So what we have going on right now is that the Emergency Operations Director from Calcasieu Parish, which is the area encompassing Lake Charles, is taking a ride out there with General Pritt, who's a National Guard general, to get a quick survey of what's going on, although the weather conditions are very treacherous. We still have communication with Lake Charles, so we are getting reports in, but the weather there is really still pretty bad.
They still have high winds?
The winds are still high. Even here in Lafayette, we're 70 miles to the west. I'm sorry, 70 miles to the east, and we're still seeing winds sustained in around 40 or 50 miles an hour with some gusts up to 85.
Which means that people who are going to be trying to perform any kinds of, to bring in help, especially by sea, at this point, they're simply unable to do so in Lake Charles and elsewhere, correct?
That's correct. We have a plan in place. As soon as the winds abate and the weather settles down just a bit, then we can implement a plan. We've got plenty of military here. The 82nd Airborne is in the area, and they're going to be working in tandem with the Oregon National Guard, who's been assigned to this area. So we have a very good unified command and control situation in place, and General Honore is here on the ground with me, and so everything's really very organized. We're just waiting on the weather to settle down just a bit so we can get in there.
So we don't have the carping between Baton Rouge and Washington like we had after Katrina, correct?
We've not had any problems with that. Everything's worked very smoothly.
All right, and how about when you were riding it out? Tell us what that was like.
Well, fortunately here in Lafayette, it wasn't nearly as bad. I spent some time at my home during the night, and we had some pretty heavy gusts of wind. There were a few tornadoes in the area, and it's always frightening. It's frightening. I mean, the sheets of rain, the howling wind, and you feel the structure of your home shake. It's very disconcerting.
All right, Representative Charles Bustani, thank you very much. You're looking at a picture of where one of the levees has been compromised in New Orleans. We're going to bring you more of the latest coverage from Hurricane Rita all around the Gulf region. Stay with us. We're taking a quick break. You're watching Fox News Channel.
This is one way to find out what your home is worth. Or simply go to housevalues.com. Find out what your home is worth free at housevalues.com. For your free home value report, go to housevalues.com.
So I put on this Thermacare heat wrap for knees. It heated up and it was all downhill from there. With less knee stiffness, less pain. Nice. Oh, and since the knee wrap can go anywhere I go, I'm gone. Have a good day. See you tonight.
Okay.
Introducing the all-new Suzuki Grand Vitara. You want more out of life? We're giving you the green light. Go!
Water that's cleaner and safer. Crops that grow stronger and faster. New medicines that save lives. Better protected foods. What's the ingredient that makes all these things possible? The right chemistry. Improving the things we all need is a healthy goal, and it's ours. Dow. Living. Improve daily.
Hello, Farmers Health Point. How can I help you?
Hi, listen, I just got rear-ended by some yahoo.
Are you okay?
Well, I'm fine. My car's a little busted up, though.
No problem. We'll take care of it.
How fast can Farmers Health Point service get your car fixed after an accident? Well, you get the idea. Health Point is free with your policy. To find an agent near you, call 1-800-FARMERS.
They are the kings and queens, the potentates of the road. We recognize them by their restless wing-tipped feet. We support them with new, thicker mattresses and lay the freshest fine white linens at their feet. An offering of respect. Our beds, ourselves, we've changed it all for them. Rest well, my liege. Rest well.
I do a lot of testing for my diabetes. And sure, there's pain, but you deal with it. These days, I'm dealing better. I switched to Freestyle Flash, and it's virtually pain-free. Virtually pain-free. Freestyle Flash uses the smallest sample of blood, 50 to 90% less than most meters. And Freestyle Flash is the world's smallest meter. If you have diabetes, you owe it to yourself to check out Freestyle Flash. It's virtually pain-free.
This is a Fox News alert. You're looking at what has become a familiar sight. Levees that have been compromised in New Orleans. The Corps of Engineers now says that it's going to take at least 2 days after the rains stop to start pumping the water out of areas that have now been flooded by Hurricane Rita, not Hurricane Katrina. This would include some areas that actually escaped the wrath of Hurricane Katrina. But what has happened, at least according to the Corps of Engineers, is that the storm surge from Rita exceeded expectations. There are some contingency plans afoot. For instance, perhaps you've heard, they're talking about dropping 5,000 to 7,000 pound bags of sand on some of these places, try to get those down when the water level drops a little bit. They don't want them to wash away immediately. Use that as a stopgap to try at least to hold back the waters and then get to the serious business of trying to repair some of the levees, at least in the short run. Hurricane season, as you probably know, extends all the way to November 1st, so everybody there is going to continue to be alert. Now, my guess is it's going to be all hands on deck at the levees, come what may, when they start pumping in out. Nevertheless, as we've also seen in recent days, once the pumping starts, they can do some pretty miraculous things. Remember, we were originally told that New Orleans was going to remain underwater for 9 months. Absent Hurricane Rita, they were talking about things being pretty much back in ship shape by the end of next week. As we've mentioned, Texas is not the only state that's been smacked by Hurricane Rita. Storm-weary Louisiana has taken a hit throughout. Lieutenant Lawrence McCleary of the Louisiana State Police joins us now on the phone from Baton Rouge. The first thing I want to ask you, Lieutenant McCleary, is whether you once again have an exodus of people out of New Orleans into Baton Rouge.
Well, we really didn't have a lot of people in the New Orleans area. Most of the people there were emergency service personnel. They were pulled back. There were some residents that, were still in their homes, and they still are.
All right. They're still there. At this point, they're going to be awfully hard to reach, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So we're going to have the same kind of mop-up operations we had after Katrina. Let's also talk about issues of public safety. The roads, at least in certain parts of Louisiana, have to be unpassable.
Well, they most certainly are, especially going into Orleans and Jefferson Parish, St. Bernard. Those roads have been inundated with water, and we're having the same problem in the southwestern portion of the state where Rita hit.
Right. We're talking about places like Lake Charles and so on. I noticed that Governor Rick Perry of Texas was issuing a warning to everybody in his state, and I suspect the same thing goes for you. For people, stay off the roads. Don't try to be a hero or an idiot by driving in some of these rain-soaked areas.
Oh, absolutely. This is almost like a tabletop exercise gone mad.
In the sense that you're getting whacked twice now, and the sort of circumstances nobody really had anticipated.
Well, certainly not, and we're starting to see that some of the barges near bridges are breaking loose and striking bridges, so we're inspecting bridges for damage. There are a lot of activity going on here right now.
All right. Most of this, I suspect, is of the order of damage control. I mean, there's not much of New Orleans left to loot at this point.
No, and fortunately, most of the city had been evacuated. So right now it's just we're waiting for the rain to stop, the winds to die down. The Corps of Engineers will go in and try to shore up the levee again and start pumping operations.
Wow. Lieutenant Lawrence McCleary, I want to thank you for joining us. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, as they have been for the last couple of weeks. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Officials in Texas and Louisiana also have been keeping a very close eye on many oil refineries in the Strategic Oil Reserve that's strung along the Texas and Louisiana coast. Kelly Wright is in our Washington bureau. He's going to tell us about the potential impact. Kelly?
Yeah, Tony, what will it cost? Now, we understand that Texas Governor Rick Perry is urging people to be patient and stay put. He advises that no one should return to Houston or other evacuated areas until they are able to restock fuel supplies. The nation is also concerned about how Hurricane Rita will impact the country's dependence on oil. As Hurricane Rita approached the Texas coastline, oil refineries shut down. The mayor of Beaumont, Texas, says damage assessment teams are checking out those oil refineries that have been shut down. Fox News' Geraldo Rivera says the refinery in Port Arthur, for example, is a mess, surrounded by water from Hurricane Rita, making them inaccessible, which creates a delay in getting them restarted. For every day that goes on with the refineries offline, it could wreak havoc on oil prices. All right, refineries from Corpus Christi, Texas to Lake Charles, Louisiana make at least 29% of the U.S. fuel-making capacity. In preparation for Hurricane Rita, the plants were shut down. At least 14 of the refineries from Corpus Christi to Port Arthur have a combined capacity of 3.3 million barrels a day. With so much refining capacity offline, there's the prediction by some experts that gas could rise to $4 or maybe even $5 per gallon at the gas pump. Now, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson, she spoke earlier today, and she says the impact on the Texas coastal economy alone is estimated to be around $8 billion. She says it could have been a lot worse or a lot more if a mandatory evacuation was not ordered. But, Tony, as far as the cost is concerned, we just have to wait to see and evaluate the damage. Back to you.
All right, Kelly Wright, thank you very much. We are now going to take you to Galveston, Texas. Mayor Elida Ann Thomas is leading a press conference there, and there you also see another local official. Let's go.
Within the county, their citizens are allowed to come back into their respective communities anytime that they can get here. On Bolivar Peninsula, we've got some issues stretching from Bolivar all the way over to High Island. We've lost a lot of power poles. We've still got water on the highway. 87 between Gilchrist and High Island, about 3 foot high. We've got the constable and the sheriff doing patrols over there to keep things in order, and everything's going smooth as of this press conference. We probably won't be allowing people over on the peninsula probably for several days. We'll keep you informed as situations change and we make improvements to the peninsula. We understand people want to get back in their homes immediately. We understand that, and we're trying our best to facilitate that process. But as the mayor said, we've got some situations here in Galveston with electrical and some of the city services that we want to get in place prior to letting 60,000 people back on the island. We are working hard with all the entities to make sure that that happens as quick as possible. County government as an entity will not consider and open our business up full steam until at least Tuesday. So we'll keep our employees posted. Our essential personnel are already in place doing work that they need to do, but the county operations will not open until at least Tuesday morning, and we'll keep y'all informed as to that. But again, I want to congratulate the city staff here and the city staffs all over the county. I mean, the public was well served by the public officials in this event. To my knowledge, we've not had any casualties that have come across my desk, and that is remarkable considering all the activity that's happened in such a short period of time. And we appreciate the news media helping us get the message out, especially today when people are anxious and wanting to come back home.
What are you going to do? Give them a time frame as to when they can come back. Could we finish with our report, and then we'll take questions?
Steve may answer some of those questions in his comments, and then Joe Jaworski, and then we'll be available for questions.
Steve, if you can come all over to the center, Steve, if you don't mind.
And please say your name and title.
Okay, my name is Steve LeBlanc. I'm the city manager for the city of Galveston. I want to explain to you, first of all, that only the essential personnel for the city of Galveston, Galveston County, GISD, and UTMB are being allowed back on the island at this time. They know who they are. They've already been contacted, and those folks are being allowed back on the island. I want to elaborate a little bit on why that's not safe. We have been all over town, and we have identified numerous places throughout the city where there are down power lines. There are down traffic signals, and that is the primary concern, somebody to get electrocuted that isn't aware of the situation. Electric lines being down are also a potential threat for a fire, and we don't want people to come down and be subject to getting in their house and then a fire start. We had a very serious fire last night, as you well know. So we have worked very closely with CenterPoint Energy. CenterPoint Energy is down on the island. We're about 75% of the city is without power right now. We want to get UTMB's hospital back up and running. They're about 60% of power right now. They are sending down crews. They do not know at this point in time how long it will take to get the power, at least the dangerous power lines, picked up. We will have a report later today. The mayor's going to announce the next press conference in just a minute. But the point is that we don't know how long it's going to take to get the power, the dangerous situation with the power lines being down, picked up. As far as restoring power, I don't have an answer for that either. That hopefully will come later today. So that's my portion of this report, and I'll answer questions later. But I believe Mayor Pro Tem Jaworski has got an announcement as well.
As you all are aware, due to the graphic footage that played on the national feed, there was significant fire damage during the height of the storm here at the corner of 19th and Post Office. 2 different buildings were totally destroyed. One suffered significant damage. I want to give you an update on the young lady who was pulled from the fire. She is approximately 30 years of age. She suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns over 22% of her body. This puts her in a serious critical condition. She was treated as a critical care patient by the Corps surgeons at University of Texas Medical Branch during the height of the hurricane here. She is stabilized, and she will be transferred to Lubbock Burn Center at University of Texas Tech.
What building?
Do you have a...
Hang on, we're just not quite finished.
One quick question, hold on.
When the next press conference is going to be, it's at City Hall this evening. because we do have power there at 5 o'clock.
5:30.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5:30 this evening, we'll give you another update. Now, I want to be very clear. There is no one who wants her citizens back on this island beside this mayor and this mayor pro tem and our city staff. I'd like to let everybody in the world come in right now. It is not safe. Our citizens, and those of you who are listening who are citizens of this island, you bore with me before the storm, and I'm asking you to give us a couple of more days to make your home a safe place. At 5:30 this afternoon, we'll give everyone another update. We're going to get the causeway open to our citizens just as soon as we possibly can. We're doing our best, and hopefully in the next couple of days, and as each day goes by, we'll find a way. We'll get this island cleaned up, and you'll all get home just as quick as we can get you here. Now, what I'm going to ask you all to do, because it's a little bit hard to hear, we're very tired, is if you would just raise your hands and be recognized. We will try to answer as many questions as we can, but I'm going to ask you all to make your questions short. We have an awful lot to do, and we're doing it, as I just said, to get our folks back home. So let me start right here, and we're just going to go right around, and we'll try not to miss anybody. Go ahead.
Two quick questions. First, what about the people who are already lined up to get onto the island? And secondly, can you tell us a little bit about the damage you did see and your perspective of it?
I'm going to let Mr. LeBlanc answer that question.
People have lined up to try to get back home. They're trying to figure out what to do with them.
People that are lined up to get in, the DP, if they don't have a business being here, they're being turned around. What was your second question?
And so residents can get on?
No,
Or? Okay.
That's not what I said. I said if they're essential personnel, they are being allowed on. If they're not essential personnel, they are being turned away by DPS.
Okay, second, your perspective of the damage that you all viewed this morning.
I think we got off fairly well as far as damage was concerned. There's very little flooding, hardly any flooding. There you have a number of down trees and such as that, but not that much. Our biggest issue is power.
And any idea how many power lines are down throughout the city?
I said 75% of the city is without power. Yes, ma'am.
Can we get more details on the fire and how many buildings it was that were damaged or destroyed on the Strand?
Joe can answer that.
Sure. I mean, the corner of 19th and Post Office is sort of the midline between the East End Historic District and the Strand Central downtown area. At 1902 Post Office, the Eagles Hall suffered total devastation. That is currently being used as an art studio, no longer. 1907 Post Office is a private residence, possibly a duplex. That did not suffer extensive damage, but embers crossed the street, as y'all saw last night in the height of the storm, and that sustained burn damage. A bail bonds office facing onto 19th Street between Post Office and the alley between Market and Post Office suffered total devastation. The Galveston Historic Foundation, which is right next to this, did not suffer fire damage. However, I did note that a window on the northeast corner of the building was blown out, and that's the only damage I could notice. So there are three different buildings that burned, and only one person, as you know, who sustained that grievous injury.
Any idea on a cause yet? Even if it was storm-related or not?
No, sir.
Was there much historical significance to the buildings that were burned or the building where the facade fell off?
Yes, absolutely. The facade that fell off of the Yagas building is right at the heart of our Strand Historic District. It's at the 23rd and Strand intersection at Sangerfest Park. It's an old building made of brick, certainly dating back to the last century, the beginning of the last century, 1900s. The Eagles Hall was an older building, but it was a fraternal organization for decades. And the bail bonds building was not an old building. Comparatively, and 1907 Post Office that had the minor damage is a wooden structure from about the 1915 era.
Can you give us more details about the woman who was burned? Was she in the house, or what? The question is about the woman who was burned in the house.
Right. From what I understand, the woman was in an apartment on top of the bail bonds part of the structure that faced onto 19th Street between Post Office and the alley. She was by herself, was on a mattress, and there may have been something to do with either a smoking type situation. There was also some suggestion that there was some gasoline in the structure, but that's not confirmed.
I'm sorry. I completely forgot my question.
You know, the island has withstood a Category 1 hurricane before. The island has seen these same kinds of power lines down before when people did not evacuate. There are a lot of folks who want to come home. They just want to come home. They're tired. I know that there's a safety issue, but what can you? I know no time frame, nothing for these folks.
Come back at 5:30, just as we did before the storm, just as we did during the evacuation. We have to go, at this point, hour by hour as we assess the damage, just as we assess the strength of the storm as it was coming in. As soon as we can let our folks in, I guarantee you. But I'm not going to say today what that day is because I don't know yet. We're still, remember, we just, the storm just passed by here a few hours ago, so we're out all over the place trying to assess the damage.
Let me add this. What the mayor has also hinted at and has said is that one of our partners here in the city is CenterPoint Energy. They're the franchise that provides electricity and manages the lines. We are expecting a recommendation from them. That is something that only they can give us, and when the mayor gets that recommendation, she'll have information to make a decision.
Now, has there been any problems with anybody breaking in or looting or anything like that?
Where's Steve?
No, at this point in time, we have not had any reports of any break-ins or theft at all. So at this point in time, I think things seem to be very safe. I do want to assure the citizens, as the mayor said, curfew is still in effect. We have all of our entire police force with us on the island, 70 officers who are out working and patrolling. Your homes are safe. We will do everything in our power to assure that, and the curfew is another tool to help make sure that that happens. So I know you can't come home, but we are protecting your homes as we speak.
Given what we saw on the way out with these people getting trapped on the roadways, is there any consideration of maybe setting up a shelter for them, given there may be a couple days before they can get back to their homes if they come back this way?
I would assume they're in a shelter at this point in time. So setting up another shelter is not something we've contemplated needing to do.
And what if they have nowhere to go in the county, I guess is the question.
They're in a shelter. They need to stay there. We don't have a shelter here. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Last night, it was suggested that there would be difficulties even contemplating sending out emergency responses for any reason. But obviously that happened, and that happened here kind of at the heart of the storm. How difficult was it to make the decision to actually send guys out there?
Before Mr. LeBlanc tells you, we've said all along that we have one of the best fire departments and police departments certainly in the county, and in my opinion, beyond. And Mr. LeBlanc can tell you they were right there and ready to go. Steve, you want to elaborate on that?
Let me explain. We did say, and our plan was absolutely to not send out our staff during the height of the storm. However, what we did do was during the height of the storm, which turned out to be not that bad, the police chief and myself toured the entire island. And we determined at that point in time that it was not that terribly unsafe for our staff to be out if they had to go. And just coincidentally, when I arrived back here at the San Luis, the report that the fire was starting to go was announced to me. We made a decision at that time, after conferring with the firemen, that they felt like they could go out and handle the fire during the high winds, which was 75 to 85, 90 mile an hour winds, because it was important to protect the rest of the property that was out there and could, as you saw, all the embers were flying and blowing, and they felt they could handle the situation, and they did a very good job. And on top of that, we called in mutual aid from all of our sister cities, Friendswood, Dickinson, Lamarck, and Houston, and we received 10 additional units and 37 firefighters, and they came immediately and assisted us. So we felt like we could handle it. The big concern was crossing the causeway with the high winds. There was a judgment factor done at that time, and they did do it, and it turned out fine.
Was there another fire last night?
All right, well, we have lost the signal there. Again, let me just recap what you have. You have the very plain-spoken mayor of Galveston, Texas, Rita Ann Thomas, trying to caution reporters that she's not going to make any promises about when people can get back into that city. There's a causeway that connects the island city of Galveston to the mainland, and at this point it's flooded out. They're not permitting people back in. There was also a recitation of the kind of damage that's been done. We heard from city manager Steve LeBlanc, also the mayor pro tem Joe Jaworski. All of them had the very same reaction, which is, look, we're doing our very best, stay with us. Apparently, at least at this point, no invocations for reporters not to get stuck on stupid. We're now going to hear from the mayor of Houston, Texas, Bill White. Let's go in. He's holding a press conference. Let's listen in. All right. The mayor is getting some advice from someone. Now here he goes, I think. Any moment now.
Judge Eccles and I and all the local elected leadership are making an important request for residents of Houston and the surrounding regions where we have so many evacuees. People should heed the President's request of the people of Texas and the American people not to return to their homes, their residences, unless it's in accordance with instructions from local officials. It is critical that people that are coming to provide relief to the people who've been hardest hit by Rita, people who are coming to get our power system up in order, people who are essential medical personnel, people who are necessary for the transportation and fueling sectors, the pharmacies, the people who provide food supplies, be able to get back to the areas which were voluntarily or involuntarily evacuated. Citizens who are throughout the state and within this viewing area who are in a place of shelter should not be getting in their cars and returning home right now. Judge and I and others up here have been out and about throughout this region since early hours this morning, and there is waters rising within the bayous. There is not any certainty that you will be able to get gasoline on the way back, and it is dangerous for people to stall out on the way back. But most important, people need to hold back so those emergency supply providers can get in the major thoroughfares of the state, the major highways, to the area where that help is most needed. The judge and I are asking local employers not to require people to return to work except in essential functions that I've identified for at least Monday and Tuesday. Right now, as we speak, the school superintendents are conferring and will make an announcement within the hour concerning school closures in the area. Nobody should be rushing to get somebody back to school on Monday. No school district will be open at that time. The superintendents are discussing the date for school opening, the time for school opening, and there will be an announcement shortly. With that, I want to turn to Judge Eccles, and we have a report on various efforts made throughout the evening, and we will close with some damage assessments.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, reemphasize the mayor's comments on coming back. We have talked this morning with many of the folks in the media and around the state about the minimal damage in the region, but that is not the entire story. Today we are already hearing reports of I-10 starting to back up as people are trying to rush back into the city, and the city is not necessarily ready to accept everyone back. We know that in Baytown their water and sewer systems are out because of some fires in Baytown, so it's there are still places in the city where people need to be thinking about before they come back into Houston. Once again, we want to encourage folks to Wait until we get better announcements. Wait until we can assure them that we have power in the city. We talked earlier this morning about 600,000 people in Houston without electricity. That is also a large number of traffic signals and intersections without electricity that will make the traffic worse as people come in. We are still doing damage assessments going through the city. The appraisal district has been working on those issues. We know that last night we had, in the unincorporated areas of the community, the mayor talked this morning about the incorporated areas, 176 responses with 6 fires and 1 building collapse on Jones Road and FM 1960. A large number of false alarms and service calls and EMS reports, over 100 EMS runs that we don't have all the details on yet. We are trying to deploy forces from Houston into the Beaumont, Port Arthur, and East Texas area up through Jasper. We are trying to get gasoline trucks, diesel trucks into the city to be able to service and supply people who come to town. Once again, we are encouraging folks to not rush back to Houston, to take a little time and wait until we get a chance to fully assess the damage and for those folks to fully understand what they may be coming home to and get the power back on and some other issues in their homes. Mayor?
There is no reason to return because of fear of the security of your property. I visited police stations throughout the cities. There was some isolated incidents of misconduct. People were arrested. We've reviewed the property in the city, and our law enforcement, city, county, regionally, is at a high level of alert, and people's property is being watched after, and you can be assured that there's vigilance and no tolerance in the community for people who would take advantage of an evacuation. There are 2 reports, perhaps or more than that, with 3 with Metro, but we had committed to give a little report on the shelters at this morning's news conference, and Colonel Noriega, if you could give a brief report on what was done in the case of the shelters and their peak populations, the shelters that were stood up where we stand now. We do not encourage citizens to go to shelter if there's an emergency. If you have a type of an emergency situation, then the emergency response mechanism is in place, 911. But we're not we're encouraging people to continue shelter in place. Colonel Noriega.
I want to briefly address 2 things. One is the semantics that are being used and the effort in the incorporated area. The judge can address, as he had a similar parallel in the unincorporated, but in the incorporated area, over the past 24 hours, some safe zones or bunkers, if you will, were established west of the projected surge flood area for the purpose of when Metro or other first responders cleared the roadways, that there was a place to take these persons. For persons who were had special needs was a priority as well as those persons that were still in Zone A of the surge flood areas, and lastly, walk-ins. These were not set up or are not established as shelters for any period of time. The entire intent of these particular locations was merely to, as a place of last resort for safety and security of those residents that found themselves outside of their homes, and that law enforcement and others identified. These locations, 11 of them within the city limits, at peak time last night reached a total population of a little over 5,000 residents. Not just residents, incidentally. In some locations there are persons from Livingston, Galveston, and other parts of the surrounding area that were brought to these locations for safe haven. Currently, the population of these safe zones is less than 1,000. Persons returned to their homes, and again, these were for immediate response. They were not. The provisions were only water and snacks just to hold over for a 24-hour period. Currently, those locations that are schools are coordinating with Red Cross to find out now, after the landfall of the storm, what will occur with those persons that cannot be moved, and that coordination is occurring between HISD and Red Cross.
Emergency convoys to provide relief from the most devastated areas, to get power back up, to provide needed medical supplies in those emergency areas. Emergency convoys are en route. And I just handed a report and be requested that people keep off those routes that are used by emergency convoys. There are people blocking their way on Interstate 71 and 10. You will not be helping your city and your fellow citizens if you don't heed our strong request about when you come back. Judge and I and others are asking, have asked the state and federal leadership to provide traffic control beyond our jurisdictions. We expect that they will be making decisions soon. I'm telling the citizens who can hear this broadcast and others that may relay it throughout the state, do not come back until word is given by local authorities. There are some local authorities within the coastal plains who have said that their city is safe and secure. That does not mean that you should return until word is given. At the statewide level, people should heed the request, the statement made by the President of the United States just 2 hours ago, not to take their own initiative about coming back, but to wait word from local authorities. For further damage assessment, tax assessor, collector Paul Betancourt.
Thanks, Mayor. We've had early indications primarily from the western side of the county. I would classify the damage as light. We have down power lines, obviously down trees in a variety of places. We have trees on homes. We have a roof caved in on the Big Lots store at Jones Road. We have our own subdivision on the east side of town. Jim Fontina from the county side is flooded on the back side, and the pumps are inoperative. On the eastern side, we're just getting sketchy information in. Deer Park, some carports and other similar structures have been uprooted. Ended up with a few houses down from where they belong. That's wind damage. Much of the city remains without power, similar in Memorial Heights area. The major damage area appears to be downtown in a 4-block radius around J.P. Morgan Chase building, which is wind damage and collateral damage from glass being broken. We have dispatched an appraiser down there at this time. We also have a bridge closing at this point. It's officially closed. A bridge at Wood Forest between Sheldon and Delldale is closed, and that is in Precinct 2, Commissioner Garcia's precinct. And according to the district clerk, Charles Baccaris, there'll be no jury duty on Monday. Right now, I classify the damage on the western side of the county as light. I've driven it myself this morning. The damage starts inside of Highway 6, about a line at Hollister to Gessner, down south. The power outages are concentrated mostly north from 290 and around 1960. At this time, we don't have any other information except the public can help us out greatly if they would call 713-881-3100. That's the emergency management line here under Frank Gutierrez's direction. We've got tax office people standing to take those damage assessments. What we're going to do is plug this into an algorithm at the appraisal district. They're running on backup emergency generation right now, and we should be able to have some estimates later tonight or early in the morning. So the public would be encouraged to that.
That number is for damage assessment.
Only for damage assessment for structures only, 713-881-3100. And we also have an email for print or electronic that I can give out after this. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Judge.
Yep. Mr. Betancourt's report on power had to do with outlying areas. I'll tell you the power's down a lot in Houston, Texas, and throughout the region. As those of us who have been traveling throughout the region know, we won't go through a detailed list. The most important thing for people to know is that it's not the right time to return unless you are in some of those essential, have some of those essential jobs. We previously had announced that it is urgent that people employed in med center institutions and other healthcare professionals call in to report to their employers and receive some communication concerning the needs for them and their schedules. That's important. There's other essential services, including the gasoline and diesel distribution systems that are essential to recovery of the community. Obviously, those within the utilities are notified. Those within the public government is notified. And there will be other. Your assumption is that non-essential public services, you heard about the district court and municipal courts are going to be closed for at least Monday and Tuesday. But don't just take the initiative to return unless you're in one of those essential categories. There will be announcements based on the availability of fuel and developments during the day concerning Metro, but people should not, Frank Wilson is here, count on getting Metro service at the beginning of the week. Wait for the announcement from the local authorities when to come back. Questions?
Mayor, we've seen a variety of some jam cans in our reports, a steady stream of people coming in. So obviously not everybody is listening to what you, the governor, or the judge has to say. Short of setting up roadblocks and turning people around, how are you going to keep people from coming in, jamming the roads, and in the process perhaps running out of gas and getting stuck?
Well, first, you know, I have a lot of confidence in the good common sense of the people in this state, in this region, and if people haven't heard it clearly enough, they're hearing it right now, that you're endangering others if you do that, if you have a safe place to shelter. Second, I mentioned that we have requested appropriate assistance in traffic control, but please be aware, the sheriff and Chief Hurt are right now conferring with counterparts at DPS. We still have issues to contend with in East Texas. This storm is not over. This storm is still continuing. And so there are statewide resources that are stretched thin, but obviously we can't deploy sheriffs and HPD all the way to Dallas or Austin, and we've made this request of the state to assist with traffic control. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Well, sure. I mean, just as y'all all know, the rainfall in this region, and for that matter, you saw the same thing in New Orleans or any place struck by a hurricane. It takes a while for the water to drain downhill and into the bayou. And I've been at Sims, Buffalo, Braze, White Oak, and many of the tributaries to those. Crossed them this morning, crossed them this afternoon. I'm going out when we conclude this conference, and they are higher than they were at 7 a.m. This morning. So people shouldn't simply assume that when the eye of the storm made landfall that the danger for flooding crests. Indeed, experience shows that it is later than that. Thank goodness. Even in some of those areas that have experienced repetitive flooding in the Northeast, in the Southeast, in the Southwest, along the White Oak watershed in the Northwest that I visited, we haven't seen any kind of flooding like you've seen in Allison or other storms. But my point is, so far, my point is that there's still rain in this community, and people shouldn't assume they've seen the worst. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Could you tell me, do you have any status report on the refineries? What kind of damage? Any problems?
No. But I will say this: we do not yet in the Beaumont area. That will be important and critical to get that. You know that we had two of the largest refineries in the nation went down, were brought down in the ship channel, and virtually all in the Beaumont Port Arthur were brought down in anticipation of Rita. How long that it will take to bring it back up will be announcements made by the individual companies. But I want to say this to Americans, that with the removal of some of the refining capacity in Louisiana and Mississippi, refineries were running tight, which is another reason. And then there were planned shutdowns of refineries in the Golden Triangle and Ship Channel area and in points further south. For this reason, motorists who get on the road should not assume that there will be fuel available, and we cannot deplete the stocks of fuel for the emergency providers. Judge, do you want to comment?
I just want to mention that on the refining capacity on the east end, the report that Paul gave earlier was more of the west and the north side where we've been able to get through there. We're just now, again, in that report did not include the Baytown water supply being off and the issues of the bridge closing we had just gotten in. So we'll be going through this afternoon more on the east side, and we'll come back with more reports on that. And again, we think more impact on the east side, and particularly to those counties to the east of Harris County that are part of the listening area, the market, media market that we're talking to today.
Let me add one more point about this fuel situation. I've been out in the north side, and citizens would come out of their house and ask about moving about. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of staying in place, because to your question about refineries, we know that we're going to have long-term problems. And frankly, the fuel is not going to come as quickly as those who are here might like and those who are traveling might like. It will be difficult transporting fuel in. We've made the request for assistance. Part of this will be a federal question in terms of fuel that needs to be brought in. Combination of the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Department of Energy, and of course the state agency, and of course FEMA. My conversations with Director Paulison this morning was to request his inquiry about national fuel sources. FEMA is not the fuel vehicle, but they can resource it and find out what's available. I do want to say, in traveling and looking in older neighborhoods, for those who are not here, know that your boarding up is still in place. You can be happy about that. And I want to join with the mayor and county judge to give them great credit on the security aspect of it. I do believe that neighborhoods are safe, and so if you're worried about your possessions, your homes, your boarding is still there. But you don't have power. And I would say, Judge, that I know that our Energy, Centerpoint, and others are very astute, but you can go on one block, there are lights. You travel to the next block, there are no lights. Heights Hospital doesn't have any power, operating on a generator. They don't have fuel to go beyond a certain period of time. So the mayor is absolutely right. We need to allow the emergency resources to get in here so that they can assist. And for those of you who can stay in place or stay where you are, it will help us greatly to get both fuel resources to where they need to be for you later on in the week, but also to the emergency sites.
Yeah, one more question, then we heard. Yep. Sure. I mean, you know, there have been there was several break-ins, in particular at certain sites. I've been to several of the sites. As of this morning, the first conference, 16 people had been arrested. There were HPD were vigilant, and they were working in force throughout the nights and highly visible in the community and witnessed by people in the community. So we were vigilant, and we don't see the situation that so many Americans have seen for decades in other major cities. And for this, I want to say to Houstonians, congratulations. And if we could, then there will be individuals here available for comment following this. Next availability, Judge, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock sounds good.
5 o'clock. Thank you.
Mayor, can you just say real quick about the safety here and whether or not you want to
Yeah, we're
All right, so there you have it. Mayor Bill White of Houston conducting a press conference along with Judge Robert Eccles of Harris County and Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. A couple of important things to take out of this. Maybe the most significant line uttered during the entire press conference was by the mayor when he said, "This storm is not over." He was cautioning residents of Houston, who, by the way, were parties to the largest evacuation in American history, more than 2 million people getting out of the path of Hurricane Rita. As a consequence, not only is there very little damage in terms of people getting injured or killed, but also the property damage, at least, was blessedly low in the Houston area. So far, it appears that there has been some damage to refineries. They are unable to quantify that at this juncture because, frankly, they can't get to them. But there will be another press conference in about, 4.5 hours where they will try to do an update. But the mayor and others were urging people not to go back to Houston, and we've heard similar cautions of other cities along the Gulf. Why? Because Hurricane Rita, still a hurricane, long after making landfall, is dumping prodigious amounts of water on areas north of Houston and Galveston and other places. That water's going to flow toward the Gulf, so there's going to be even more flooding than we've seen so far. And city officials, quite wisely, are telling people to stay put until the worst is past. President Bush has been spending much of the day in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at Northern Command. There you see a picture from just a couple of minutes ago. Air Force One lifting off. The president now headed toward Austin, Texas, where Governor Rick Perry has been holding forth. The command center for the damage in Texas is in the Texas state capital of Austin, so the president will be there in a bit, and we will cover that. Now, the places that were most directly hit by Hurricane Rita, they're called the Tri-Cities. They're in the they're in the Louisiana-Texas border area along the Sabine Lake, the Sabine Pass, and the Sabine River. One of those, Beaumont, Texas, also Port Arthur and Orange. They call themselves the Tri-Cities. One of the people who has been writing this out is Beaumont's Lieutenant Ray Beck. He joins us now on the phone. Lieutenant Beck, let's first begin with a characterization of the very latest in Beaumont. You've been up now for a few hours in terms of sunrise. People have been able to get around. Just how bad is the damage so far physically to Beaumont?
By the way, good afternoon. The damage over here is just horrible. This is big timber country, a lot of hardwoods and pines, and we have many trees down. All of our electrical supplies is out. Our water's out. It's just a horrible hit to southeast Texas. We're located about 80 miles due east of Houston, and it's right now we have found no fatalities. We were part of a very well organized evacuation, and the evacuation worked. So we're pleased with that part of it, but now comes the cleanup, and so there's a lot of damage here.
You know, it's astonishing. Again, the largest evacuation in human history. More than 2 million people moved out in 48 hours, and yes, there were long lines. But as you pointed out, no fatalities. We have not heard gruesome stories out of Galveston or Houston or Port Arthur or other places. And we can all thank our lucky stars for that, and frankly thank people for being a little wiser this time around than in Hurricane Katrina, where a lot of people were less well prepared. But I want to get back to something that the mayor of Houston, Bill White, was saying, which is, this storm isn't over, and you guys still have a lot to sort of weather in terms of damage now as waters begin making their way, because they're going to be floodwaters coming down from the north. What are you guys anticipating along those lines?
Well, we don't know. It's a hurricane's magnitude has never hit us directly. We are used to big floods and a lot of water because we're at sea level, obviously, but we don't know. We're just trying to get the streets cleared. Right now, we don't have much flooding in southeast Texas. The ground was very dry. The drainage system worked well. So we're just kind of in the dark about what's going to be coming at us. Fortunately, the eye of the hurricane, even though it did go over Beaumont and right up the Sabine River, it was the main water, the rain was to the east of us towards Lake Charles. So we didn't get a lot of rain to clog up our water system, our drainage system. So we think we're ready. We just, again, we don't know.
Lieutenant Beck, as far as the advice, and I want to do this because if nothing else, it's a bit of a public service. There have been a lot of warnings for people not to try to come back yet, despite the fact, as you pointed out, maybe not a lot of flooding in Beaumont. On the other hand, as you said, there's a considerable amount of uncertainty about what's likely to happen as Hurricane Rita dumps as much as 2 feet of water in some of the areas up north of you guys. So the question is, are you telling people stay put, don't come back for now?
We're asking them to please stay put. We're running people off the streets of Beaumont. We have a curfew going. It's very dangerous here. Again, the storm is not over. A lot of these trees have cracked and are about to fall. These are giant oak trees, and our streets are not passable. Again, we have electrical lines down, and even though we don't have power now, our energy companies are trying to get those back up. So it's not safe for people here. The emergency workers are having a hard time, as well as we're working hard to prevent looting. And we have certain parts of the city blocked off with heavy law enforcement. The state of Texas and different surrounding counties have brought us some help. So we're trying to prevent that. So we're just asking people to please stay out of Beaumont. The Highway Patrol has Beaumont blocked off right now. It's hard to get in town, but it's just a mess, and they got to give us a chance to get a head start on what we got to go here.
All right, Lieutenant Ray Beck of Beaumont, Texas, the police department, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck, sir.
Well, we appreciate your interest. Again, we learned from our friends in Louisiana, their troubled times. We've got a lot of great people down here that are coming in to help, and again, thank you for your interest.
All right, thank you so much. Also standing by in Beaumont, Texas, Fox News correspondent Dan Springer, who's been watching much of what has transpired there. We're seeing some older pictures of people, I think, evacuating. This is typical highway stuff. Let me just make a couple of simple points here before we get to Dan, which is this. There have been a lot of complaints about traffic and so on leading out of Houston, and I'm sure people are going to be making some adjustments in the future. But if you take a look at if you listen to what we have heard today, press conferences in Beaumont, in Port Arthur, in Houston, in Galveston, the one thing you have not heard of is tales of horrific loss of life. Why? Because more than 2 million people were evacuated successfully. Second important point, the law enforcement out in force. The mayor of Houston and also Judge Eccles of Harris County made it pretty clear earlier in the day when they said people aren't going to mess around with us. They're not going to try to loot here. Nobody's going to be forgiven for that. You've also just heard from Lieutenant Beck that the law enforcement also out in force in Beaumont for the same reason. So loss of life, the crime problems, this is not so much. These are live aerials, and what am I taking a look at? This is over Columbus, Texas. Okay, I-10 is the chief interstate thoroughfare in the southern parts of Texas and Louisiana, moving east and west, and this is I-10 making its way towards San Antonio. As you can see, even now traffic is crawling, but nevertheless, this is part of a significant and astonishing exodus of people. The public officials in places that have been stricken by Rita have told one and all, keep moving west, keep moving out. Don't come back quite yet. We'll call you when we're ready. Now, as we pointed out, high winds and whipping rains have pounded a number of places, including Beaumont, Texas, which is about 30 miles north of the Sabine Pass. That's where Hurricane Rita first made landfall. Dan Springer has been in Beaumont. He joins us again with the latest. Dan?
Yeah, and Tony, what's impressive about the Texas response is that it's already started the cleanup. We have actually seen about 12 dump trucks, huge trucks, rolling down this road in Beaumont, and they are headed to spots where they can pick up big tree limbs and facades of buildings that came down. We've also seen in this building where we hunkered down last night, we saw some guys out there taking some of the extra glass away and scooping it up. They're taking a break right now, but they were out a short time ago. That's the building where we were. Across the street was another building, the SBC building, and you can see the power of the wind and the number of panes of glass, thick panes of glass that were blown out last night and early this morning when the strongest of those winds came whipping through here. Now, we did take a ride the 25 miles down to Port Arthur, which was among the hardest hit cities. We had that videotape we want to roll now, which shows just the extent of the damage. It's certainly widespread and fairly extensive, but nothing as catastrophic as what they were saying could happen with a Category 3 or 4 storm. We saw pretty extensive flooding, lots of buildings that had roofs torn off. We saw tree limbs. We saw big roadsides, highway signs taken down. We also saw that Port Arthur, near the coast, near the intercoastal channel there's extensive flooding. We saw at least 3-4 feet at one spot. We don't know how deep it is. That's as far as we could go. We did speak to some residents who actually decided to live through Hurricane Rita in their homes. One guy stayed in an apartment building. He was the only guy in the entire complex. Here's what he had to say about what it was like this morning.
It was like a big old train coming through there around about 1:30 or 2 o'clock last night. And it got kind of leery. I had woke up because I had fell asleep. I was going to get out of town, but time caught me.
Now, he was certainly in the minority. We were down there yesterday, and very, very few people on the streets. Most of the cars gone, most of the homes boarded up, and that's a good thing because when that storm whipped through about 1:30, 2 o'clock this morning, Port Arthur was right in its bullseye, and it's a low-lying area. And as we saw when we tried to get down to the coast, we saw that there was pretty serious flooding, and we can only fear what may have happened to people if they did stay in their homes along that intercoastal channel. Again, the other big question, as you mentioned, Tony, is what happened to the refineries. There are several refineries in that area between Port Sabine and Galveston. About 1/4 of all the refining capacity in the country is there. We still don't know the extent of the damage there. Tony?
All right, Dan, thank you very much. That's maybe the most significant part. Guys, I don't know if we have the graphic that shows all of the oil refineries in that particular area of the Gulf, but as Dan has just pointed out, nearly 1/4 of the nation's entire oil refining capacity is in platforms and also refineries along that Gulf Coast region. Here's the graphic. We're going to just give you, there you see it. Those are refineries at risk right along the area there. 25% of the nation's oil refining capacity. We're going to find out in the next couple of days exactly what that's going to mean for oil supplies and gasoline prices and the like. Now, as we've also been talking about, the weather situation is still pretty dicey in a lot of places. Foxcaster Chris Knowles is live in the Fox Weather Center. He's got the very latest on the travels of Rita. Chris?
Hi, Tony. We're looking at an inland rain event right now as the storm is far enough inland that it's probably weakened beyond hurricane status. Now, officially, it is still a Category 1 hurricane. We should know more in about 10 to 20 minutes on that, but my bet is that it is now a strong tropical storm. Here's what it looks like on the radar picture in these red areas where there's still the danger of tornadoes, and that will exist throughout the afternoon time hours as well. The heaviest bands moving up now into Shreveport and beyond up into the lower portion of Arkansas. We will expect the storm to sort of stall out there the next couple of days and not really make a whole lot of movement for the next 36 hours. Here's the path of it, a 1 right now, but then again, likely a tropical storm, then depression, wrapping back around in on itself and stalling out and dumping a lot of rain. Remember, its path to the Gulf of Mexico still not cut off, still be allowed to draw up plenty of moisture. Now, last check, again, the winds were at 75. They've probably dropped a few miles per hour. That happens. We'll let you know immediately. Tony, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Refinery Row, the string of oil refineries along the Texas and Louisiana coast, as I just told you, they're along Rita's path, and they have enormous responsibility for refining oil and gasoline in this country. Kelly Wright's in our Washington bureau. He's going to tell us about the potential impact. Kelly?
Well, Tony, as you can imagine, the nation is quite concerned about how Hurricane Rita will impact the country's dependence on oil. As Hurricane Rita approached the Texas coastline, oil refineries shut down. The mayor of Beaumont, Texas, says damage assessment teams are already checking out those oil refineries, some of them at least. Fox News' Geraldo Rivera was there earlier, and he says the refinery in Port Arthur, for example, is a mess, surrounded by water from Hurricane Rita, making them inaccessible, which creates a delay in getting them restarted. That's very important. For every day that goes on with the refineries offline, it could wreak havoc on oil prices. Earlier today, we heard from Phil Flynn. He was telling us that it's too early to know, but the good news is that the storm missed the refineries. Well, we don't know that to be the case right now, so we're still going to wait to see. But he says that if the bad news is that they did indeed get damaged, we could see a spike of an additional $15 to the price of oil. Refineries from Corpus Christi, Texas, to Lake Charles, Louisiana, make at least 29% of the U.S. fuel-making capacity. In preparation for Hurricane Rita, the plants were shut down. At least 14 of the refineries from Corpus Christi to Port Arthur, for example, have a combined capacity of 3.3 million barrels a day. With so much refining capacity offline, the predictions are that gas could rise to $4 or even $5 per gallon at the gas pump. So, Tony, a lot of people are concerned about fuel and about oil, as well as how to get Houston back online as well, because people can't return home if they have no capacity for refueling their vehicles to get them there. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson, for example, says the impact on the Texas coastal economy is estimated to be around $8 billion. That's the coastal economy. Could be a lot more as the days progress. Back to you.
All right, Kelly, thank you very much. We're going to talk to Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson in a couple of minutes. We're going to take a break. When we return, there have been some minor outbreaks of looting in Houston. We're going to give you the very latest on that. You are watching Fox News Channel's continuous coverage of Hurricane Rita. Stay right here.
Tonight at Red Roof Inn, Bill stays in a Business King room.
Look at his space.
And feels like a Business King himself.
Multitasking. Chances of me working are remote.
Don't miss the redesigned, rededicated Red Roof Inn and Accor Hotel.
Lunesta. People everywhere are discovering it. What are you waiting for? Talk to your doctor to see if Lunesta could make a difference for you.
Whether you're running a busy household or a small business, chances are you have a lot going on. Well, there's one place that can help you handle it all.
Don't you worry about a thing.
The UPS Store. If you need help with packing and shipping, need someone to print, collate, and bind a presentation for your small business, or a mailbox where someone can sign for your packages, let the UPS Store worry about it. That's our thing.
Don't you worry about a thing.
The UPS Store, the place for packing, shipping, and a whole lot more.
At Yellow Book, we looked at a lot of ideas to help you remember our name. We looked at blimps, a Yellow Book stadium. Sports marketing was a very appealing way to say Yellow Book has a lot of new fans. We even considered a line of Yellow Book clothing. Now that we're coast to coast, we've seen some pretty wild ideas. Some a little far out there. But at the end of the day, we think our book speaks for itself. So remember, yellowbook.com and Yellow Book, not the other book, 1-800-YB-YELLOW.
Okay, Trevor, let me explain the matrix one more time. The blue yarn applies to transportation expenses. The green is office supplies, and the red is inventory.
So, how do you add up each category?
Trevor, the matrix is not perfect.
There's an easier way to track your expenses. Get the Visa Business Card. Use it for all your business needs and get one detailed statement every month.
We should never speak of this.
Visa Business. It's everywhere you want your business to be.
File not found. Virus detected. Can't connect. Finally, your suffering is over.
We'll take it from here.
Thank you.
Introducing Geek Squad, 24-hour computer support task force. Call 1-800-GEEK-SQUAD. Help has arrived.
From the director of 8 Mile and LA Confidential.
Those are my shoes.
Comes a story about two sisters.
You need a job, Maggie. It's not easy for me, Rose.
Who had to lose each other.
I have no idea where my sister is. My best friend.
Before they could find themselves.
You live here. In an old folks' home. It's a retirement community for active seniors.
Cameron Diaz, Toni Collette, In Her Shoes. Rated PG-13. Special sneak preview tonight.
All right, there's a whole lot of business going on as we are taking a look at Hurricane Rita. Still a hurricane, although in the next few minutes it may be downgraded to a tropical storm. Nevertheless, the storm dumping massive amounts of water along the Sabine River. That is the dividing line between, as you can see the path there, between Louisiana and Texas, where most of the damage is being done. One of the places where people originally thought Rita may make landfall was near Houston, Texas. Houston so far has weathered this storm fairly well. There was a press conference not long ago by the mayor. Joining us with the very latest from Houston, Fox's Martha McCallum. Martha?
Hi there, Tony. Thanks. You know, we got a very good look at the situation in this city this morning. We drove all around the city, taking a look at, downed trees, some power lines. But overall, Houston feels very good about how they weathered the storm. After all, they were looking at a Category 5 that seemed to be headed dead straight for this city, which could have caused a tremendous amount of damage. 2 million people live here in Houston. So they're feeling very good about how things ended up. There was a little bit of crime overnight. They said they did about 16 arrests. We took a ride this morning and took a look at all of it with Deputy Jeffrey McGowan. Let's take a look. I'm here with Deputy Jeffrey McGowan. Deputy, you look around you here in Houston, and it is like a ghost town here. Is it strange for you to look around this parking lot at Target and to see just how quiet it is? Not one restaurant, nothing open out there.
It's real strange, but I'm glad to see this, because if that storm would have just traveled a little bit more west, then it could have been catastrophic. So,
what were your worst fears for the city of Houston? That I know you said you're born and raised here.
That there'll be a lot of damage, a lot of buildings down, a lot of homes destroyed. That was my biggest fear.
And we know that folks to the east of here may be dealing with some of that, but thankfully that you're not dealing with that here in Houston. We've just been driving around this morning, taking a look around the city, and not a lot of damage here. This is one place that we're going to take a look at, Target, that we understand there was a little bit of police activity here last night. Let's just take a walk over toward the door, and you can tell us a little bit about what happened here.
Basically, there was a report that there was some looting going on here. HPD, which is Houston Police Department, responded, and when they responded, they arrested 8 people, 4 of them being juveniles, 3 females and a male, is the reports that we're getting from the city of Houston. And as you can see now, that the building has actually been reboarded. I'm not exactly sure how they entered the building, but it's been resecured now.
Tony, if you take a look across the way here from us, Karuji's, the folks are out there putting up, taking down the plywood, because that's what we're seeing all over this town. And despite the fact that the mayor's telling people do not come back, they are coming back, and they're coming back in big numbers, Tony. All right, Martha McCallum, quick break, folks. Rita's now a tropical storm. We'll bring you the very latest in a couple of minutes. Stay right here.
Investing over $1 billion in North America. It began with a new design and research center and test track in California, a new engineering facility in Michigan, and now a state-of-the-art assembly plant in Alabama, creating thousands of new jobs across the country. The result will be a Hyundai like you've never seen before.
Last year, Norfolk Southern and its shipping partners took hundreds of thousands of freight loads off the highway. In fact, they've invested millions to convert even more traffic in the coming years. So it's easy to see how the economy won't be the only thing that benefits. Norfolk Southern, the future of transportation.
Why has AudioSource been the #1 specialty car audio and security store in Clark County the last 10 years? Outstanding customer service, highest quality installation, and the absolute lowest prices. AudioSource truly has the best deals on the best car audio brands all in one location.
Free installation with any purchase of Alpine, Clarion, Pioneer, or Kenwood CD players with sale prices as low as $129. Pioneer and Clarion amps starting at just $99.
For the guaranteed lowest prices on all car audio, security, and accessories, visit AudioSource on Highway 99 in Hazeldale.
At TNC Dodge, it's the full line closeout. Why buy at TNC Dodge? Here are 5 reasons. 1, every Dodge is on sale. 2, the largest inventory of 05s in the Portland Metro. 3, employee pricing plus, and you get the rebates. 4, rebates and bonus cash as high as $4,500. 5, you get free lifetime tires. Take advantage of employee pricing plus and lifetime tires while it lasts. We are Town and Country Dodge in Wilsonville. Drive home happy.
It's Classic Antiques New Arrivals event. Over 500 fresh additions for home and garden have just been unpacked.
We've gone far and wide to put together the Northwest's most inspired home furnishings collections. A mixture of antique and new, formal and country, whimsical and funky await your discovery in our expansive warehouse showroom, where constant deliveries and massive quantities of goods, often stacked to the ceiling, elicit a sense of anticipation and discovery. Classic Antique, the authority for vintage and antique reproduction home furnishings.
Call 1-866-SO-FAST-1 to get Comcast high-speed internet for only $19.99 a month for the first 3 months. Comfortably surf the web with unparalleled protection and 3 free downloads from McAfee Security Solutions, a savings of over $100. A 6,000 kilobits per second connection means faster downloads for online news, music, games, and so much more. Sign up for Comcast high-speed internet today by calling 1-866-SO-FAST-1 and get the service that's always safe, always fast, always Comcast.
This is a Fox News alert. There you see the track of former Hurricane Rita. Rita is now a tropical storm, but that does not mean the menace is over. On the contrary, this is a storm that is packing enormous amounts of wind and rain, especially on the rain side. That is where the concern now is lodged with many officials, because they're concerned about flooding everywhere from Arkansas to the Texas coast. Joining me now on the phone from Austin, Texas, is Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. Senator, it's great to have you here. Let me ask you about something that was raised just a couple of moments ago in an Austin press conference featuring Steve McCraw, who's the Texas Director of Homeland Security. He's telling a lot of folks who seem to be anxious to return home to some of the areas that have been hit by Rita, stay where you are. A lot of people are sort of taking for granted that the worst is over, and apparently it's not. What do you know?
Well, Tony, I think you're right. For one thing, there is flooding in East Texas. It is still raining very hard there, and they've had a drought. So they're looking at that. And they have still stranded motorists in huge numbers in the Lufkin-Nacogdoches area. I've been talking to officials, the mayor of Nacogdoches this morning, so they are very concerned about that. And then, of course, in the Port Arthur area, there is significant flooding, and the Beaumont area, the mayor told me this morning, looks like it's been bombed out. They had the wind damage there. So, you know, it's a storm that's continuing to go. It's now a tropical storm, but it's moving slowly, so it's really they're now concerned about the flooding.
I suppose the good news here is that the main concerns seem to be flooding and traffic in the wake of Hurricane Rita, and not a devastating toll in terms of human life. Do you expect people to do a lot of postmortems on the traffic? My view is you've evacuated more than 2 million people. It's pretty extraordinary this got pulled off in the first place.
Yes, I think that there will be postmortems because we learned a lot from Katrina about pre-planning. I think the pre-planning really helped the evacuation, but I think that there will be postmortems on when they should have caused all of the lanes to be open rather than just the outgoing lanes. But I think that in the main, we did save lives. We got the aged and infirm out. We did it with some pretty heroic means in some instances, and it was done early enough that it wasn't in crisis mode. So I think we've learned lessons from Katrina. We will future new lessons from Rita, and I think it is important as much as possible for people not to move back into those areas that still do not have power, do not have gasoline supplies, and don't have grocery supplies on the shelves.
All right.
Talking to the mayor this morning of Galveston and Houston, they are not equipped for people to come back yet.
All right, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison, thanks so much for joining us. That's a wrap for me, but stay tuned. Martha McCallum standing by in Houston with more on Hurricane Rita. Stay here.
Get a tight grip on your chair because you've never seen such horror. Now, for the first time, you can have 25 horror classics on a special DVD collection that's sure to terrify you. These are the greatest horror movie stars of all time. Boris Karloff.
He may have turned his back just for the moment that it took to open the door and fire the shot.
Bela Lugosi.
You see, our dreams, our minds, play strange tricks on us sometimes.
Vincent Price.
If any of you will spend the next 12 hours in this house, I'll give you each $10,000. Or your next of kin in case you don't survive.
Christopher Lee.
Foolish man. A bullet It cannot harm me.
And more.
A silver bullet.
These are all uncut, original, full-length horror films. The kind that will keep you on the edge of your seat as you try to keep from screaming. The entire collection, all 25 horror classics, are yours on 2 DVDs for the amazing low price of only $19.95. But wait, call now and we'll double your order at no extra cost. That's right, you get a total of 50 horror classics. Over 60 hours of bone-chilling, hair-raising terror. They're yours on 4 Frightfield DVDs, all for only $19.95. You'll come face to face with vampires, cringe in fear from zombies, encounter nightmarish ghouls and monsters, and even meet Dracula himself. But don't be afraid to call. Order your 50 horror classics now.
To order your 50 horror classics, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-700-2600. Or send check or money order for $19.95 plus shipping and handling too. 50 horror classics. P.O. Box 3012, Wallingford, Connecticut. But for quicker service, call 1-800-700-2600.
This weekend, our special live coverage of Rita continues. The preparations, the evacuations, the relief efforts. At every turn, every story, every breaking development, Fox is where the news is. Stay with Fox News Channel. Tonight, it's special hurricane coverage. The destruction, the devastation, how bad could it get? Fox has live reports from the storm-ravaged region. At 9, Geraldo's live from Texas on a special 2-hour edition of At Large. Then at 11, Jamie Colby has breaking news on the big story.
Welcome, everybody. This is Fox News Live, and I'm Martha McCallum reporting from Houston, where this city is coming back to life. But I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. You're taking a look at Lake Charles, Louisiana right now, which may be one of the areas that really bore the brunt of this storm. And I really can't emphasize enough that all across Louisiana and all across Texas, in the southwestern part of Louisiana, southeastern part of Texas, they are still assessing the damage. They're still trying to figure out just how bad the situation is out there. How many people need help? How many people, as Kay Bailey Hutchinson was saying just moments ago, are stranded along the highways in some areas still? You're looking now at Beaumont, Texas, where, there was sign damage, trees down, some roofs that were ripped off. There was a school gym roof ripped off in one section of this area that was hardest hit. This is near the area right where the eye came through. 1 million plus people are without power right now in Texas and in Louisiana. There's a look once again at Beaumont, Texas. About 600,000 people, they think, in the Houston area are without power at the moment, and that's something that they're working very hard to get back underway. There's some very serious flooding in that area, and also New Orleans. This is really, could turn out to be the most difficult story, actually, that we're reporting with regard to Hurricane Rita, where they are just simply getting battered again as those levees have overflowed there, according to the Army Corps of Engineers. There was some, discrepancies yesterday as to breaching and overflowing, but that's what they're calling it. They're saying that this is an overflow situation. No matter how you slice it, neighborhoods in New Orleans are once more underwater, if you can believe it. Less than a month later, after Hurricane Katrina hit this area, these folks are dealing with yet a second blow, and some of those areas may be areas that weren't even hit the first time. Let's go to Bill Hemmer, who's been standing by and who has been watching this levee situation so closely and knows so well the situation there. Bill, come on in. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing there today.
Hey, Martha, you just said the city of Houston is starting to come back to life. Here in New Orleans, this is a city that is still virtually dead. Look at the street down here, Martha. There's no one here. We're almost 4 weeks removed from when Katrina first struck here. You'll get an occasional police car coming by here, an occasional energy truck, occasional National Guard troop coming down here. We started our day today, Martha, like we have for the past 10 days. We get up at daybreak and we drive to where we think the story is. But there are no people here, and we're not from New Orleans, and we rely on the locals and the police every block or two to give us help or give us direction, but there's no one out here. And today when we were driving around, it became increasingly more difficult to get around the city of New Orleans. You've got that standing water in various areas too, and also the levees that are still an issue here. And it was frankly very difficult for us to even get around anywhere today. And you really get a feeling now here in the city of New Orleans that this is a defeated people. They see that water coming back into their neighborhoods over the 9th Ward, over at the Industrial Canal Breach, and they look at you and they think, you know, when is this going to end? We were at St. Bernard Parish a few hours ago, and a bit later this afternoon we'll get that tape back to New York City, and I'll tell you, Martha, you cannot get back into that parish, which is the same scene that we saw in St. Bernard 3 weeks ago. And we talked to a couple people over there, and, you know, they just throw their hands up in the air and they think, how much longer do we have to tolerate this? You know, every time they think they're getting to the point where they can turn the corner and start getting this city uprighted again, another blow comes in here. You know, I mentioned the street here in New Orleans. Look up here. You know, Rita was not very strong in the city, to be quite frank with you. You know, we had squalls of rain and we had gusts of wind come through here. That American flag this time yesterday was a huge blowing red, white, and blue flag on top of the Energy building here. And you can see what Rita did to it overnight. Just a few shreds coming off there and some stars in the upper right-hand corner. We met a man. He's a Louisiana State Trooper earlier today. He's retired. He retired 3 weeks, Martha, before Katrina hit. He says, I'm tired. He says, I'm sick of the water. I'm sick of the destruction. I'm sick of the bodies. I'm just tired. And that is the sentiment you get throughout this entire city. The National Guard says it will start dumping sandbags on the Industrial Canal Breach a bit later today, but so far we have not seen that activity. They're trying to get all this material coming in from various parts of the country, and maybe it will start today or maybe even tomorrow. But Martha, this is a town again that is down on its knees after Rita. Back to you now in Houston.
You know, Bill, it's so easy to understand the people there feeling that way, feeling so beaten down. And I'm wondering, you know, there was some talk that was criticized greatly right after Hurricane Katrina about rebuilding New Orleans. And even some mentioned, you know, that it shouldn't be rebuilt, and at least not rebuilt the way it was. Has any of this renewed talk about a wiser way to rebuild that city when they can finally get to that point?
I'll tell you, in St. Bernard Parish today, they're pretty upset, Martha. They think if the Army Corps of Engineers can fix the repairs in the 17th Street Canal and pretty much keep the flooding at bay, yeah, there's standing water up in that part of the town, but nothing like in the 9th Ward and nothing like in St. Bernard Parish. They say if you can get that job done, why can't you get this job done on the Industrial Breach? I think for those who are still stuck behind here in New Orleans, who are still trying to get back in their homes, they really have not looked down the road that far. But the politicians are, and the structural engineers are looking at that also, and whether or not they can get this town up and running again. How long will that take, and how long will it take to get this levee system fortified the way you really need to fortify it in the event of another Rita or a Katrina before that? And we were talking with Henry Cisneros yesterday, former head of HUD, Housing and Urban Development, former mayor in San Antonio, Texas. He says it's going to take you about 5 years if you really want to fortify this town and make it strong again so that people feel safe and secure to return back to New Orleans. And the mayor's already put out his forecast. He believes his town will have to start with the population cut in half, from 460,000 down to 250,000. But Martha, you can drive in any direction in New Orleans. I know it's a really difficult thing for us to relate to our viewers, but every time we get in our car and go into another neighborhood where we had not been prior, the devastation is just everywhere. Now, I don't know where this city begins. We were at a dealership earlier today, a Toyota dealership out on the road towards St. Bernard Parish. There were 5 dealerships in a row out there. We stopped at one. There were 1,000 cars in the parking lot. All were trashed. A total loss. And that's just one business. Where do you even begin to start to get the debris and the trash out of this city? That's an answer that I do not have for you today, Martha.
You know, Bill, in closing, we've talked to people who were evacuated from the New Orleans area who came to Houston, which was a city that opened its arms to so many folks from Katrina. And you can see on some of these boarded up buildings signs, you know, that were on the windows before that saying, you know, contribute to the Katrina Fund. And now the windows all boarded up in Houston as well. And when those people, some of them even moved out of Houston to Arkansas and places like that, you have to wonder if they will ever want to go back to New Orleans. And that's a question that we will answer over time. Bill Hemmer, thank you so much. Good to talk to you.
Sure.
All right, we want to take you over to Port Arthur now, which is an area that was right in the eye of the storm in Texas that was hit. It's over close to the border of Texas and Louisiana, and that's where Geraldo Rivera went through the night really watching the eye of this storm, and now they've had a chance to kind of get up and at least take an initial assessment as they walk around. Geraldo, what are you seeing there today now that there's a chance to walk around?
Well, Martha, Port Arthur has not been dealt a mortal blow. This is not New Orleans. It's been a significant hit. There's widespread damage. Power poles have been knocked down right at their base, cut off at their base. Trees are down everywhere. Some roofs. There's hardly a standing gas station or sign. Many traffic lights out. Widespread flooding, as you can see. But the good news is that the seawall on the other side of that flooded street and down about 2 miles, we've now had an opportunity to go to the position where we were last night. The seawall, which is much like New Orleans levees, holds out the intercoastal waterway. This town, like New Orleans, very low in terms of elevation. But the good news is Port Arthur's seawall is intact, and in fact, the buildings closer to the seawall seem to have fared better than many of the residential neighborhoods away from downtown. Although the City Hall, the police department still closed, all of the services still shut down. The police have begun trickling in. They think they can have a generator going in their headquarters in several hours and move their operations center from the Holiday Inn behind our camera about a mile to their own headquarters downtown. Now, Lamar College downtown has fared well. Woodworth House, the 19th century home that's a treasure for the people of Port Arthur, that's okay. The shrimp boats that we saw in the intercoastal waterway last night, they are okay. The oil refineries, which are obviously the heart and soul of this entire area of the nation and the providers of about 25% of all of the gas that we the flames are still burning from the natural gas runoff. The infrastructure, the big buildings seem intact, but it's very difficult to tell, Martha, whether or not they will be functioning because it is impossible to reach them very often. Many of them are surrounded by water still. They have also been evacuated. I have an idea that it will take at least a week, it seems to me, because there hasn't been major structural damage to the major facilities there to get them at least cleaned up. Port Arthur itself, many of the homes have had their roofs shredded. Trees have come down, impacting on them. Windows have been blown out. In fact, that's how we knew the eye had come and gone last night, Martha. Very, very windy at the Holiday Inn, then that awful unnatural calm of the eye, then the wind hit up again. It blew out the front and back window door entrances to the Holiday Inn, sending that wind screaming through. That was quite an unnerving moment, but it does, and I think the headline is widespread, significant damage in Port Arthur, but it has not been dealt a body blow, Martha.
Geraldo, we made a friend over at our hotel in Houston who was from that area, and he called me a couple of times this morning. His name's Justin Thomas, and he was trying to find out anything he could about the damage in Port Arthur. When do you think that they will be letting people back in, or have they said anything about when people can come and assess the damage in their homes there?
Well, this is the main road in. This is 69, 96, 287. Take a look. I mean, that's the way into downtown Port Arthur. Now, there are other ways you can get in, but it's very difficult. We found a way, after an obstacle course, through trees, over fallen wires, etc. But I would say it's going to be quite a while, Martha. I don't see Port Arthur coming back to life anytime soon.
All right, Geraldo, thank you. Geraldo Rivera reporting from Port Arthur, which is one of the areas that was really the hardest hit in this storm. And you can see the flooding there. And we've told you about the flooding that's going on in New Orleans. And maybe the most upbeat story for today is that Houston really does seem to be breathing a bit of a sigh of relief today. But I will tell you that the mayor has been out there several times already today saying that he does not want people to start coming back to the city yet. In Galveston, the mayor very emphatic. She said, the The power lines are down here. We're very concerned about what might happen if people come back here in terms of people getting electrocuted. There could be power lines under the water there. A lot of concerns still out there, as today is the day to reassess, to find out what happened, to get out there. And they're telling people stay away until it is safe, until we're ready for you to come back. We will be right back.
With so much more to see, shouldn't you be watching it on the Aquas Liquid Crystal Television from Sharp?
Somewhere between where you are and where you're going, there's a Super 8.
I think we're right about here.
See you along the way.
Roberta, I can see you as a file clerk. You ever thought about that? It's a great way to meet eligible lawyers. You have to think about your future. File clerk. Yeah.
File clerk? Have you ever considered becoming a lawyer?
That one thing you've always wanted to do? It's still out there, just waiting for you to say, hello, future. Call your advisor about the powerful resources of Lincoln Financial Group.
With more and more ways to communicate, how do you make faster connections, stronger papers, brighter inks, and electronics that are smarter, smaller, more energy efficient, and easier to use? By using the right chemistry. Improving the things we all need is a goal worth talking about, and it's ours. Dow. Living. Improve daily.
Soto and Partners.
McPhee and Associates.
This is Al.
King Brokers.
Hello.
Hi.
Now with free incoming plans from Sprint Business, it's easier to say yes when customers call. And with our buy one, get one free deal, you and your company can say yes. Sprint Business gives you free incoming calls from all phones, all networks, all the time. So you can make just about any place a workplace. Call 877-63-SPRINT or visit a Sprint or Nextel store today. Sprint Business. Yes, you can.
If you have indoor or outdoor allergies, ask your doctor about something different. Singulair. While many allergy medicines block histamine, Singulair works differently by blocking leukotrienes, an underlying cause of allergy symptoms. And Singulair is now approved to help relieve both indoor and outdoor allergy symptoms for a full 24 hours. Side effects are generally mild and vary by age and may include headache, ear infection, sore throat, and upper respiratory infection. Singulair, a different way to treat indoor and outdoor allergies.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, live in Houston, Texas today as America's Challenge continues. And the shot that you're looking at to the right of me is, believe it or not, the 17th Street Canal. And this really may be the toughest story for folks in New Orleans who continue to get battered. And Bill Hammer reporting just a little while ago that the people there really, that there's a sense that they're beaten down at the moment. They were fighting to come back from Hurricane Katrina. And now this second blow and the concern that those levees were not able to withstand even the rains and the storm surges that we did see from Rita, which came onto shore greatly diminished from what it looked like out in the Gulf Coast when it was a Category 5 hurricane as it headed toward that area. So, the cleanup, the debris, Bill Hammer reporting a little while ago, just so insurmountable at this point. Hard to imagine them digging themselves out of that. And in Houston, the story today is that they're still assessing the damage, but there is definitely a sigh of relief that this great city, the fourth largest city in America, that was really concerned that they might be right in the middle of this, that the glass on the buildings behind me that you can see, so many skyscrapers around Houston, that some of that might be blown out as it was and what they experienced in 1983 with Hurricane Alicia. We did see some windows downtown this morning. We'll show you that a little bit later that did get blown out, but nowhere near the concerns that they had. And another thing that I would point out to you, if you look over my left shoulder here, you'll see that some of the store owners are coming back at Carugi's. They've been taking the plywood off the doors. They did it at Cafe Lux a little while ago, taking down the wood there. They are so anxious to get back into business in this town. And that sort of, layer that with the fact that the mayor has been out there saying do not come back yet, and other state officials saying that they do want the store people to own it. So, you know, a lot of controversy over whether or not it's safe to come back into Houston right now. Let's bring in the Attorney General of Texas, Greg Abbott, who joins us now. Greg, welcome, and you know, good day for the folks of Houston. You know, I'm standing here, the sun is coming and going, and some bands of rain still coming through, but the feeling that Houston has survived this. What do you think as you look at the city this morning?
Well, Martha, we obviously are very, very pleased that Houston did not suffer a direct or hard hit. And I got to tell you, the thing that we are most pleased about is because of the calm and orderly way that Texans went about evacuating the Gulf Coast region. We were able to get through the night, as far as I know, without the loss of any lives whatsoever. But I think the most important thing for us to focus on now is for people going back to the Gulf Coast region to go about that process again in a calm and orderly way. As you've pointed out, even though most of the hurricane has passed through the Houston area, there is still a storm going or raging in the northeastern part of the state of Texas. There are ongoing problems such as flooding, power lines that could be active, trees that could be falling. There are a lot of dangerous things out there. As people return to their homes, they need to proceed very slowly, very cautiously, very orderly to make sure that they don't put themselves into a danger that they just escaped from. It's also important that they understand that even though the storm just passed through, even though there may be sunny skies in some parts of the state of Texas, they need to remember that all the emergency personnel are just now getting into place. The infrastructure is just now being built out with the water, the electricity. It will still be days before they will get back to their normal lives. So go back to Houston, go back to Southeast Texas in a slow, orderly, calm way, just like they left.
Probably very good advice, Greg. You know, another thing, whenever you see a situation like this, you do see people taking advantage. And amazing as it is that the city of Houston, which everyone equates with and thinks of the oil industry in this country, no gas around here. Probably not going to get any gas around here till Sunday. What are your concerns about price gouging, you know, with some of these industries that will allow people to get back up and running, like gas, like rental cars and things of that sort?
Well, you do point out, Martha, something very important. That is that essential supplies such as gasoline, rental cars, water even, may be in short supply if in fact there's any supply whatsoever. People need to be aware that there may be short supplies, but also we want people and businesses of the state of Texas to be very aware that these folks in the Gulf Coast region have been victimized once already by this hurricane. We are going to ensure they will not be victimized a second time by either price gougers or scam artists who seem to come out of the woodwork on the heels of hurricanes like this. We have investigators on the ground in East Texas making sure that there will be no looters, there will be no price gougers, there won't be people who are scam artists trying to take advantage of the people who've already been victimized once by Hurricane Rita.
All right, Greg Abbott, I'm going to jump in, if I may. We thank you very much for being here, the Attorney General of Texas. We're going to defer now to the Senator from Texas, Kay Bailey Hutchison, who is speaking. Let's listen in.
We're watching closely Rita as it was approaching and touching base with all of the mayors in the coastal areas to determine what their needs were. We were able to help Jefferson County, which is the hardest hit of all the counties, with evacuations that they were concerned would not occur because of the clog on the streets and highways, and we were able to work with the White House and bring in airplanes to take out the elderly and people who were sick and infirm to make sure that they went to safety. I feel sure that we did save a number of lives. When I talked this morning to the county judge of Jefferson County and the mayor of Beaumont, it was clear that they had gotten the brunt of the storm. In Beaumont, it was wind damage. It was really devastating to the mayor to see roofs blown off and debris everywhere and glass shattering. I talked to the mayor of Galveston this morning, and she was optimistic about the damage there. They had thought they were going to get the worst, but it didn't breach the seawall, and that was one of their major concerns. And the hospital came through. Our UT Medical Branch Hospital was in good shape. We have a major biocontainment lab there, and it came through with flying colors, and they had taken all the precautions to assure that their research and experiments were not damaged. I've talked to the mayor of Nacogdoches. That is an area now where we are concerned about potential flooding. There are a number of evacuees. The mayor of Nacogdoches told me that there are 3,000 evacuees in Nacogdoches, and there could be as many as 50,000 in Lufkin, Angelina County. So these are people who were trying to get out of the Houston area and couldn't make it, ran out of gas, and it seems that probably the number one issue we have now is the shortage of gasoline. I am hopeful that the refineries will be able to get up and going very quickly now that the danger has passed in Houston, so that the gasoline shortage can be corrected, and hopefully we will not have spiking prices throughout our country.
Senator, people are so anxious to get back home. They're clogging the freeways right now. Any words of advice to those folks who may be trying to go back to, say, Houston?
Well, the mayor of Houston and the mayor of Galveston have specifically asked people not to come back. I grew up in Galveston County. I know what it's like to want to go home and see if your house is okay or try to mitigate the damage. So I know that people want to get there, but they don't have gasoline supplies, they don't have food on the grocery shelves. They want time to get the power back in Galveston, and where power is out in parts of Houston, they really need a day or so before people come back in. So I understand, I really do, and I of all people have been through this, but it is not safe to go back right now because of the supply shortages and the lack of electricity.
From what you've seen, damage more or less than what you expected?
You know, we could have had a catastrophe that would have affected our whole country if something had happened in that Houston chemical complex and refinery area. That didn't happen. Yes, it was shut down for a few days, but I do believe they will get up and running very quickly. I think that what we feared the most did not happen. That doesn't mean that some of the people who have suffered great damage aren't very important to us, but the numbers were not there. And I have to say that the people in this area have been so taxed. I have met with and talked with the mayor and the county judge in Harris County in Houston, and they've been working with Katrina victims and trying to get their area stabilized, and then to have this come so suddenly was an extra burden. But I think given the circumstances, it was not as bad as we thought it could be, though there will still be a great amount of damage and a great amount of inconvenience.
Areas you would like to see improved in regards to evacuation?
Well, I think clearly we learned so much from Katrina about evacuating early, and I think the early evacuation was the right thing to do. There will be postmortems, and there will be improvements that we learn from this, and that is when 2 million people are trying to leave a pretty narrow area, we probably ought to be looking at changing the highways over more quickly so that they're all going out. And I think certainly the gasoline shortage is something that we would address next time. Having said that, I think the state planners have been terrific. I think the mayors and the county judges implemented their plans and got their people out. Having grown up in Galveston County, I can tell you, we have never had 95% evacuation for a hurricane, not ever. And that was the right thing, and it did save lives. And so you have to factor that in along with the frustrations that I know people feel about being stuck on the road without gasoline.
The president has taken what appears to be a proactive approach to this storm. He's coming here today. How do you gauge the federal response so far?
I think the federal response has been terrific. I have been working with the local officials, and when I have called the head of FEMA or anyone in the Coast Guard to say we need airplanes, we need to go into Jefferson County to evacuate, or I called on behalf of Mayor White to try to help people get out of Ellington and get more medical teams there, the response was instant. It was absolutely there. I think the federal response this time has been very focused, and I think the President has done a wonderful job of monitoring it, hands-on, making sure that any request that got through the system was answered. So I think, and let me say that in Texas, the state and local and federal authorities work very well together. They all have communicated throughout this week. All the plans that were put in place have, I think, in large part, mitigated many of the potential deaths that we could have had. Yes, we will have property damage, but we are going to have very few deaths. And probably one of the sad areas was the bus blowing up in Dallas, which really, I think, was just an awful situation. But other than that, I think that the deaths have been avoided.
Texas is such an important state for oil and gas production for the rest of the country. Is that federal response in part you don't want the rest of the country to suffer because of Rita?
Well, I certainly think that with 25% of the refining capacity for all of America sitting in one area that was the target of this hurricane, that all of us were concerned that it would have a mammoth impact on the whole country if the bulk of those refineries were really damaged and out of pocket and out of commission for a long time. As it happened, they did shut down because of the evacuations, but I think they will be up and going very soon, and this is good for America because 25% of the refining capacity means that gasoline prices would have gone up and stayed up. If there are spikes because of supply, I think they will be very short, just as they were in Katrina. And I have to say that it was the President who opened the Strategic Oil Reserve, imported gasoline and crude oil from foreign countries, and made the spikes in gasoline prices very, very short after Katrina. And I think that that will be the case after Rita as well.
That's it, guys. We got to wrap up. We have another speaker coming up. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, if I could get you to hold for just a
minute.
All right. Steve McCraw here.
All right, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson talking about the shape that Houston is in right now and Texas, and really asking people to remember that there are thousands of evacuees, people who were stranded on the highway, people who tried to get out of the area and couldn't, and simply ran out of gas out there, and they're working very hard right now to get those people into a safe position. She said she's confident that this evacuation that they did indeed save lives. She said the number one problem, though, that we are continuing to have is fuel, and it may take a couple days to solve that problem. And let me point out now that what you've been looking at for the last couple of minutes while we've been listening to the senator are the first aerial shots that we are getting of Galveston Island, and you can see all of these wonderful places that so easily could have been wiped out, and you can see why they were so concerned. It's a very low-lying area, you know, really with no protection from trees or anything. It's a beach community, and these beautiful old homes along Galveston Island, you know, the whole thing was wiped out back in 1900 when that hurricane with no name went through this area, and over those last 105 years they have been rebuilding Galveston Island, and it's a beautiful tourist community with beach homes. And thank goodness this morning those people, and we saw some of them moments ago, going out there, getting the first walk around. It's still very quiet on those streets, and the mayor has asked people, please, please do not come back, because they're very concerned that they have power lines down there that may present some, you know, people could get electrocuted, quite simply, if they walk along those roads and there's a live power wire that they're not aware of, especially if there's water lying in some of those areas. The area that we're looking at right now looks fairly dry, but they're asking people, you know, do not be deceived. Please stay away until we know that it is indeed safe for you to come back into this area. But it is so good to see these aerial shots right now as helicopters just able to kind of get back up in the sky. The wind's dying down just enough to let them get a look at what is going on out there in Galveston Island, and just a huge, huge sigh of relief for those folks. Let's go back to Kay Bailey Hutchison. We're going to bring in Kay Bailey Hutchison. Senator, it's good to have you with us today. We just listened to what you had to say, and I know that one of your big concerns are some of the evacuees who are still out there. Can you tell us a little bit about that? We're waiting to see. All right, we're going to have the senator with us hopefully in just a moment, but as we continue to look at this video of Galveston, and as I was mentioning before, you know, this is just a historic area. You know, there were some fires along this strand, and when you watch those pictures last night of those fires burning out of control along that strand, and those courageous firefighters who were out there literally right in the middle of this storm, and the fact that they succeeded, and they did lose a few buildings out there, which is sad and tough for those folks, but it so easily could have just continued down this strand, which is a historic area where people love to celebrate Mardi Gras out on Galveston Island, and they were able to put those fires out overnight. So that's a true testament to the skill of those firefighters and the courage of those people who really could have evacuated but stayed out there to do their job and to do what they could do to help. We have Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison with us now, I believe. Can you hear me, Senator?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Thank you for being with us. We just listened to your news conference, and I want to ask you about your concerns about the evacuees who are still out there on the road. What's being done to get those people to safety right now?
The main thing that is being done is the effort to take them gasoline so that their cars will run and so that they will be able to get to a shelter. There are shelters available. Many of them have places that they can go with family, but of course they need the gasoline in their cars, and that's what's being done at this point, first and foremost.
And how's the gasoline situation? What's your estimate of when we'll start to see? Because we've been in Houston the past few days, and every gas pump around us is just wrapped up with, you know, with like saran wrap and taped off.
Yes, I know, and that is we're of course hoping to get the refineries open and get the gasoline supply into Houston and Galveston. That's why the mayors are saying, please do not come back right now, because they don't have the gasoline supply nor the grocery supplies to feed people who are back, and there are still power outages. But when, I can't tell you, but I know that is the highest priority.
Is there any, I just want to press you on that a little bit. Can you give us a sense of, you know, where the trucks might be or how long it might take them to get here? What are you hearing about that?
I can't tell you that. Perhaps after our briefing today with the president, we will know more about the timing of trucks coming in, but I know it's the highest priority. It is the biggest request that all the mayors that I've talked to today have, and it is, of course, key for people to be able to get back into their homes safely.
All right, Senator Hutchison, it's always good to talk to you, and our hearts go out to those in your city, in your state rather, that are still out there on the road, and we know you'll do everything you can to get help to them soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, now as we continue to look at these shots of the beach, and I'm just reminded of the shots that we saw yesterday afternoon with the waves pouring into Galveston, and then this storm, Hurricane Rita, Category 5 at one point out in the Gulf, making a turn, as hurricanes often do. As they get close to the coast, it gets tougher for them to maintain that hurricane strength, and they start to break up a little bit, and it moved just east of where it was expected to go, right into Galveston, which is what you're looking at right now. So these folks very happy that their homes are intact out there, and the story not so good in Port Arthur and in Lake Charles and in those areas between Houston and New Orleans, basically, and of course New Orleans struggling with its own problems of flooding. I want to bring in Paul Burka, the executive editor of Texas Monthly, and also Eric Berger, who is a scientist from Austin. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. I know that you are both passionate about the state that you live in and come from. Paul Burka, let me bring you in first. I don't know if you can see the pictures that we're looking at of Galveston right now, but tell me a little bit about how you feel waking up today and looking at the conditions across Texas.
Well, I'm greatly relieved. Of course, I'm worried about what happened in Beaumont and Port Arthur and Lake Charles, but everyone knows that the most vulnerable spot on the shoreline is my hometown, Galveston, which is an island basically in the Gulf of Mexico. And then Galveston Bay and Houston and the refineries on the Houston Ship Channel. And so if you had...
Paul, I'm just going to jump in. If I could just jump in for a moment and ask you to stand by. David Paulison, the FEMA director, the acting FEMA director, is speaking right now, so we're going to go there for a moment. Let's listen into that.
Every
Thanks,
mayor
Paul.
that we've talked to is crediting the evacuations for the fact that we have no reported deaths at this time from any of the states. I know that the evacuations were difficult. I know there were some rough edges around them, but we got quite a few people out of harm's way, and I think that is a reason for the fact that we had so few injuries and so few deaths. We are at this time currently moving our assets into the affected areas. Urban search and rescue teams are already on the ground, searching homes and looking for people to rescue, because that's our primary mission right now, is search and rescue. We have 17 urban search and rescue teams in Texas with over 900 people, and we have 5 urban search and rescue teams in Louisiana with 400 people. They are working with our medical teams. They're working in conjunction with each other to go from site to site. We have 438 people in Texas, medical people, and 500 in Louisiana. In fact, they are already treating people in Houston, so the disaster medical teams are already on the ground and already working. We are also sending in high water vehicles into those areas that are flooded. And those high water vehicles are carrying food, water, doing basic first aid, basic medical supplies, and they're also doing some damage assessment for us so we can get a good handle exactly where the damage is and how significant it is. Very shortly, we'll be putting our Coast Guard helicopters in the air if they're not in the air already. We're just waiting for the winds to die down to get a good handle of where the damage is and where the rescues need to take place. We are moving as quickly as possible. People need to understand that the roads are difficult to pass. The first responders on the ground are going to have a difficult time getting around, but they're out in the streets trying to get by. I've already seen pictures of firefighters in their turnout gear wading in water, going from house to house and searching. I need to caution people that the storm is still very dangerous. Even though the winds have died down, please stay in your homes. If you've evacuated your area, do not go back to your city until the local officials tell you it's safe to do so. The water has power lines down in it. There's a lot of debris. The power lines could still be charged even though there's not a lot of electricity in a lot of places. It is very, very dangerous place to be. We're strongly encouraging people just to stay where you are, just to be patient and wait for the local official to tell you it's safe to go back in. We are moving as quickly as we can. We're going to move food and water to the places that need to be as fast as we can. And that was really kind of what I wanted to brief you on today, and I'd just like to answer a few questions and keep this short. Yes.
Sir, where do you think the danger is from here on out going ahead? You mentioned the power lines, but what about if the storm hovers and we get a lot more rain in those flooded areas? Do you consider that a major danger? And also, when do you anticipate the people who have been evacuated will be able to go back to their homes?
Well, there's a couple questions there. The first one is what I've seen historically and as time after time in hurricanes is most of the fatalities, most of the injuries are after the hurricane's over. People are tired. They want to get their homes back in shape. You know, we end up with people falling off of roofs. We have people hurt themselves with chainsaws. We have generator accidents. All of those things happen after the storm is over. So that's one of my big concerns. The other is the high water still on the streets. You don't know what's under there. There's debris there. There's holes in the road. There's live electric lines down. So that's why we just would like people just to stay where they are as long as they have food and water and take care of themselves and just be patient. It'll take a couple days, but just be patient, and then we'll get you back in your homes. The timetable, I can't tell you that. That's up to the local officials. It depends on how quickly the waters recede and how quickly they can get services back up. You don't want to go back in your home if there's no water, there's no electricity, there's no sewage. So just be patient, and when the local officials are ready, they'll tell people when it's time to move back into their homes. Yes.
President Bush, in one of his speeches since Katrina, ordered DHS to do a review of the preparedness plans of every major city, is saying we have to have plans to evacuate large numbers of people in an emergency. Has FEMA begun that yet? How are you going to begin that? And what do you think realistically you can do to help cities do a better job? Because I know you said that the evacuation worked, but I think a lot of those people involved in the miles and miles and miles of traffic jams, running out of gas, sleeping on the side of the road, might disagree with you.
Right. It wasn't a lot of fun. There's no question about it. Houston area is a huge city. We probably evacuated 2.5 million people, maybe more. We don't know yet. So the roads were not capable of handling that. And I'm sure that Houston and Texas will go back and look at that very carefully. But I firmly believe that every city in this country should have an evacuation plan of some kind for whatever, natural disaster, terrorism, it doesn't matter. Just have those plans in place, and we're going to have to start working with that. I can't deal with it right now. We're worried about Rita. That'll be something down the road we'll have to work with the cities to make sure that we can help them put those plans together. Yes, sir.
What do you attribute the sort of apparent better success with Rita than with Catherine on keeping people alive and avoiding huge death toll?
Well, I'm not going to go back and look at Katrina yet. We'll have time for that later, so I don't want to make any comparisons. I can just tell you that we approached this particular storm in a very cooperative manner. We had a lot of partners. We had a video conference this morning with the Department of Defense and the President and other people, and my comment was how well we did the communications in this particular piece with the states and the locals, with the military, with the Coast Guard, with FEMA. We were in constant communication. We understood very clearly what the states needed. We understood very clearly what the locals needed, and they understood what our capabilities were. I think that's a key to making any type of disaster work. That's the way I've worked in the past. I've done this a long time, and that's the way we're working in this storm. So one of these days, we'll get back to looking at Katrina and critique that and decide what worked and what didn't work. But right now, I'm just focusing on Rita. Yes.
Has this storm undone any of the progress that you were making towards recovery in the Katrina area? To what extent has it complicated?
Yeah, of course it had an impact on it. I mean, the fact that the levees were breached in New Orleans, that set us back. I mean, we're going to have to go back and repair those levees and start pumping that water out again. Some of the people on the ground told me that we probably set ourselves back 3 or 4 days in what we tried to do. So yes, it had an impact. We had to take people out of the area that we were there working. Now we have to move them back in. So it does set you back a bit. Yes, sir.
What about bringing people back to Houston? Are you working with the cities in order to try to get to bring people back so there's not the same kind of problems that we had during the evacuation?
Yeah, that'll be a decision by the state and by the city of Houston and the other cities. We will assist them in the type of resources they need, but that's their decision on how they do that. And yes, we will consult with them to help them make sure that's an orderly fashion to get back into the city.
More of them on how best to handle that?
Well, they're not ready for that yet. The Houston mayor was just on the television just a few hours ago saying don't come back into the city yet. When that time is ready, we will assist them with that. Yes.
How is morale holding up here at FEMA? I've talked to folks who've been working 12-hour plus shifts every day since Katrina hit. At the same time as they're very cognizant of the fact that along the Gulf Coast, to say that FEMA is not held in high regard right now is really an understatement.
Well, I have to tell you, I am extremely proud of the employees in FEMA. And a 12-hour day is a short day. They've been working, some of them 18 hours a day. They are very cognizant of some of the issues out there. But I have to tell you, I've never been more proud to be part of an organization like this. When this extra storm came along, when Rita came along, you would expect people to just kind of drop the shoulders. That didn't happen here. These people re-energized and back together again and ready to take on this next storm. So, I don't see some of those other issues. These people are focused on Rita and focused on getting the people from Katrina back in business again. Yes, sir.
On flights, has the weather cleared to the point that you've been able to put up any assessment flights? Do you have any early word on the nuclear or oil facilities? And the last point to follow up the first question on the storm as it moves north, do you have any information on the dangers of flooding from rainfall in Arkansas and Louisiana moving north?
The first question is I don't have a good assessment yet on the damage to any of the oil facilities. We're in the process of doing that. The Coast Guard will be responsible for doing that assessment for us, and I'm not sure if the winds have died down enough for them to do that. And your second question was?
Rainfall going north, your anticipation from that, and the energy, the nuclear plant.
And we're monitoring that very carefully. We know that this storm is, although the winds have died down quite a bit, is still a tremendous amount of rain out of this particular storm. And so we're working with the states and the locals to monitor that to see if maybe we have to do further evacuations or not. But we're going to be very careful. They could be flooding all the way up into Arkansas, and that's something we have to watch very carefully. No question about it.
You said the communications were vital this time. You had a better idea of what cities needed. Cities better were aware of what you could provide. Did that have to do with the fact that, in this case, you pre-positioned FEMA workers at cities and kept them there, unlike in the case of Katrina, where I spoke directly with mayors, where they said FEMA people pulled out right before the storm and fled and left them alone?
I'm not sure I understood your question.
How important, I mean, did your FEMA people who you put in place at the cities stay there and ride out the storm with the cities and therefore be able to quickly transmit back to you what they needed versus, again, in Katrina, where FEMA people pulled out and drove 5 hours?
We moved a lot of people out of harm's way. Some people stayed to stay with the city officials, yes. And we had already put a communications in place already for Louisiana to make sure that we could understand what those issues were, and then we just duplicated that in Texas, putting people with the cities, putting people in the governor's office, in the Emergency Operations Center, to make sure that we were talking together on not only a daily basis, but an hourly basis.
Has the president declared a disaster in both Louisiana and Texas?
The disaster has been applied for by both states, and we're working on those right now.
Did you say that there were some rescues that have been done so far, or that?
I know we're treating people in Houston with our disaster medical assistance teams, and I understand there have been a few rescues already taking place. I don't have the details on those right now.
You don't know how many?
I do not know how many at this point. We're still getting reports in as we come, and people are still getting out into the field. Folks, I thank you very much. I appreciate it, and keep up the good work. You're getting our message out, and I appreciate that very much. That's important to us.
All right, you were listening to David Paulison, who, of course, stepped in after Michael Brown resigned in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. Paulison has taken over, and he seems to be very satisfied with FEMA's response in Hurricane Rita so far. He said that there have been no deaths reported, so the news really can't get any better than that because, of course, we care about people first and property second. So no deaths reported as of right now, and I guess that really can be attributed to two main things. And the first one may be just the lessons that were learned from Hurricane Katrina and the huge evacuation that was requested of the people of Texas, and the fact that it was followed because those people had not only opened their homes in many cases to evacuees from New Orleans, but had watched on TV all of those horrific pictures and just were scared, didn't want it to happen to them, having lived through so many hurricanes and toughed so many of them out around here. He said that the roads are still very difficult to pass in many cases, and this storm remains dangerous. So he asked people to please remain cautious out there, even though, there are so many cars streaming back in to this area. So, they're putting out the word. Please be cautious if you are coming back. Paul Burka, the executive editor of Texas Monthly, joins us back now. And Paul, we're still looking at these great pictures of Galveston from the aerial shots that we're getting, which really seems to be, from everything that we've seen, very much intact. I know this is your hometown. Tell us what you think about the fact that they dodged the bullet.
Well, it was a great relief to see the pictures. It amazes me how little is on the ground except for homes that are largely intact, and those were homes that were very close to the beach. So I think that there was such a concern about this, having a 4 or a 5 hit Galveston Island head on and then proceed up the Houston Ship Channel and inundate the eastern half of Houston, that you have to look not just at what the hurricane did, but what it might have done. And in that sense, we all have a great deal to be thankful for. As I said earlier, I'm hope that Lake Charles and Beaumont come through it. It was their great misfortune to be the target, and I hope that it isn't something that they can't clean up in a fairly near amount of time. The levees didn't get breached in New Orleans. Of course, they were weak, but other than that, I think it was about the best case scenario that you could hope.
tell us what you expect in terms of the spirit of the people of Texas. You know, a lot of folks that we spoke to said, you know, that they had never evacuated before. They'd always stood their ground, but they listened to the government this time and they went out. Now the government's telling them that they don't think they should come back in. How much do you think people are going to listen to that, and how often do you think they're going to just, you know, say, forget it, I'm getting in my car and I'm heading back?
Well, you know, Texans are known for being sort of an independent, stubborn lot. I think a lot of people are going to go back to their homes, and in a way you can't blame them. They want to be sure that they're there to protect their homes. So I think you will see that, but I think the actual evacuation really took place well. What we're going to have to ask ourselves in the future is, are there some places where you might not need to evacuate? Now, Galveston Island and most of Galveston County are not that, you know, you need to get out of there. But there are parts of Houston that are pretty far from tidal water that maybe people could stay, but those are questions I think that FEMA and the state authorities are going to be asking and should ask. That's really the only question coming out of the hurricane that I think is going to have to be answered. Otherwise, our state authorities and our representatives like Kay Bailey Hutchison were fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that was one of the big concerns. They were afraid that the people who didn't necessarily need to get out might be clogging the highways because they were so afraid from what they saw from Rita, and that might have backed up some of the people who really did need to get out and eventually couldn't get out. How do you feel about the possibility of, you know, what you've seen of this evacuation that was very orderly? It happened over the course of 48 hours. You know, if there were something to happen here that was unexpected, say a terrorist attack, for example, are you concerned about what you saw in terms of evacuation routes and the huge backups on those highways?
Well, I think the thing to be concerned about is something that nobody could have predicted, and we probably wouldn't have happened except for Katrina. People looked at Katrina, they saw people's cars floating in the water, they saw houses with their possessions ruined, and they decided that wasn't going to happen to them. So instead of just leaving in one car with the family, they took every car the family had and loaded them all with possessions, and so you wound up with 3 times as many cars on the road as people were prepared for. That's what I think caused the problem.
All right, Paul Burka, thank you so much, Executive Editor. We're so happy for you and your hometown of Galveston as we look at these beautiful shots. Thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it. And we woke up this morning right in the middle of the city of Houston. We wanted to get out in the car and take a look around and see exactly what had happened in Houston. So we want to show that to you now. Let's roll that tape of this morning. This is in the downtown skyscraper area in the center of Houston. We're in downtown Houston, where the wind, as you can see, is picking up pretty good here right now, but the city of Houston overall has made out very well. Just going to show you a little bit of the damage that we're seeing in the middle of the city here. Behind me, you can see all those newspaper stands are knocked over. There's some small young trees there that are blowing pretty well in the wind right now. And over here, if you look down on this side of the sidewalk, they did lose some trees down the sidewalks here in the middle of town. We're outside of Shell Plaza right now. This is the central area where a lot of the oil companies are based, a lot of energy companies based here as well. If you go, Tommy, up the side of this to Shell Plaza here, you can see that they lost a window. We're going to go in a little bit further down the Chase building. We understand blew out several windows, but that was one of the big concerns here. Back in '83, they had ankle-deep glass in some of these areas after Hurricane Alicia, so that was really one of their major concerns. Just take a quick look down there near the Hobby Center, and you can see that the Texas flag is blowing in the wind. A big section of that flag ripped and torn in the wind, but overall, the folks here are feeling very good about how they weathered Hurricane Rita so far, but they're telling people not to come back. The wind here is still very strong. They want to wait until the hurricane has really moved all the way through before they let people come back into this area. All right, as you look at more of those shots of Galveston and Houston, and then on the left of your screen, President Bush landing in Austin, Texas. He came in today. He's going to assess the damage and talk to all the state officials. He's been on the phone with Governor Rick Perry several times a day, really, over the last several days. And, of course, this President Bush's home state concerned about it in that respect as well. So we're looking forward to hearing from the president in just a little while when he makes his statement, but he has indeed landed in Austin. Houston as of right now. And here back in Houston, I'm joined with by Dr. Manny Alvarez, who has been on the scene for us all the way from Hurricane Rita through now. And I know that you saw some horrific scenes in the Superdome and on the site at Hurricane Katrina. Tell me a little bit about how this experience has been different.
Well, a very different story. Very organized city. I visited a couple of hospitals yesterday. Their whole plan has been completely different. For the last 3 or 4 days, they've been moving patients out of hospitals that were in low-lying areas. So everything has been very organized. The hospitals had plenty of water, plenty of electricity. All backup personnel was there, so it was very organized, thank God.
How much of that do you think was a direct result of what they saw in Katrina? Because I spoke to one hospital in Galveston, and they said, you know, Martha, we have never evacuated this hospital before, and this time we're going to.
I think we learned a lesson. I think we learned a lesson because hospitals were just not prepared for Katrina as they were now for Rita. And I think that and what we saw was, even though I think even if the city got, you know, thank God it didn't get hit, but if they had to get hit, they were very well prepared for this kind of disaster.
They told me at that hospital in Galveston that they flip-flopped their usual plan. They were going to take the sickest people out first. They said usually we send home the well people because maybe their family can take care of them, and then we try to deal with the sick people. Do you think that that's a wise way to go, and is it something that should be institutionalized in hospitals across the country?
Well, one of the things that they did as of Wednesday, many hospitals began to discharge patients that could have got home, and so that would create room for the sicker patients from other hospitals. So that worked very effectively. Now what is happening now, there's a new plan now, of course, to reopen the hospitals that shut down. The first thing that they're going to do is to try to bring back the patients that are more stable. The critical care patients that were not stable are remaining on the hospitals that they're in now. So it's very organized from that point of view.
Did you see a lot of, they spoke to me about moving generators and essential equipment up to the higher floors. Was that handled efficiently? What did you see in that regard?
And not only that, they had backup generators, they had emergency generators, they had fuel trucks standing by, so it was a very well orchestrated operation.
You know, we just heard David Paulson, the FEMA director, saying that a lot of times the injuries happen after the hurricane. He said people are tired, they get back in there, they climb up on their roof, they fall down, they're working with saws, they're trying to, do you have, you know, any thoughts on those kind of injuries and what people should do to avoid it?
Well, the biggest challenge right now, there's a couple of hospitals in the Hudson area, in the Houston area, that do not have electricity. So basically is going to try to get the electricity back into those hospitals. The big thing is that there's over 1 million people in the Houston area that do not have electricity. How long is that going to be? Because that's very important. It's very hot. Humidity is coming back. So especially, you know, dehydration and water and things like that are an important factor from a health risk perspective. So we'll see what happens. I mean, as long as the electricity comes back soon enough, they should be fine.
You know, I have to ask you a question about New Orleans because we're seeing more flooding there in New Orleans, and I know the water conditions were so toxic. Do you have greater concerns now because of this additional flooding?
I mean, nothing has changed. The health risk for New Orleans continues to be quite high. There's still going to be a lot of bacterial contamination in the water, especially with this new influx of water from the levees. I think we're going to have the same health risk that we had before.
All right, Dr. Alvarez, thank you so much. Dr. Manny Alvarez. And, you know, we've been reporting all day from Houston and over the past several days. On the right side of your screen, though, maybe one of the stories that lingers more than others in this, and that is the second beating of New Orleans. Those levees overwhelmed once again. The helicopter that you're watching is dropping sandbags to try to plug up that industrial canal there. And, of course, the man who has dealt with so many of these events over the past month, these natural events, President Bush has now landed in Austin, Texas, and Houston, Texas, a city where the mayor is urging people, please do not come back yet. And yet there have been reports of about 10,000 cars an hour pouring back into Houston. In many respects, you can't blame these people. They were good. They got out. They evacuated. They did what they were told. We've seen a lot of intrepid store owners who are coming back today, just ripping the plywood off of their...
1,500